And we're live. I think we're live. I hope we're live. Hello, welcome to the studio. Welcome to another live stream. It's early here in New Zealand at the moment, as of the time of going live here. Would you do me a huge favor and please let me know in that live chat, which I've got right here on my screen. You see, that's you. That's you right there. Let me know if you can see and you can hear me okay. And we'll get going. I'm excited about this. Another YouTube public live stream. Right, while you're getting back to me there in the live chat, I hope I got everything configured correctly today. While you're getting back to me, I'm gonna get out some oil paint. I'm gonna talk to you about what we're gonna be doing today. It's gonna be exciting. We are live. Yes, just let me know if you can see and you can hear me. Kevin Robertson, somebody, just let me know if you can see and you can hear me. Looks, sounds good. Okay, that's all I needed. That's awesome. Thank you, Penny. Appreciate that. Okay, so today, actually before I get out my my oil paints, let me show you what I got here. I'm going to go over to this screen. This is what I'm going to be painting today. Now, often, you know, as you can imagine, when I'm putting together the thumbnails and you're clicking on the live stream, because it's being painted live, I don't have that painting yet to put on the thumbnail. So I did put this little one on the thumbnail, this little thing. But the size of the painting today, let me just show you the comparative size of what we're going to be doing today. We'll go back over to this camera here. Hang on, here we go. Where are we? That one, and here we go. This is the size difference. This is what was on the thumbnail, and this is how big we're going to be painting today. So it's a little over 20 by 24. I think it's about 18 by 25 or something like that. So reasonably big size. It's going to be a lot to get through in this live stream. Hopefully we're going to make a really good start. I'm excited. Are you excited? If you are, hit the like button for me. I know, go ahead and do it even before you've seen the dang live stream. Go ahead and hit that like button for me. It'll help more people jump on right now and see this. And let's get into it. So this scene here is the waterfall around the back of Sam Summers' hut on the Mount Crichton Trail outside of Queenstown, South Island of New Zealand. So this is where I live, well, not reasonably close to Queenstown, a couple of hours away. So it's a subject that's relatively close to home. But I was here recently on an art tour where we were hosting some of our students from around the world, most of them Americans coming over from the United States to paint with me in the South Island. It was absolutely epic. It was phenomenal. This is a little hike, a little destination that you can see just on a little hike just outside of Queenstown. And I thought this was a really beautiful waterfall. It's got some cool things. It's got some things that we're going to change about it, and we'll talk about that. Now, my academy students are going to get access to this reference material. And so what I've got here, there we go. My academy students are getting access to the royalty copyright-free reference material. We'll be carrying on with this in the academy. I'll explain what that's all about a bit later. But this is what I'm referring to as I'm painting. I'll put that reference material on the screen, and then you can go ahead and see that while we're working. Early morning here, so yeah, need some coffee. All right, let's get into it. I'm going to go over here, load up my palette cam. There we are. Let's load up a little bit of reference material, and let's get out some color. And say good morning to me. Where are you? Hello to Ashley and Nikki and Ed Klein. Kathy's here. Too many people to shout out. I saw Alexis was in the house a little bit earlier. She was saying she can't wait for the live stream. G'day, Lynn Barker as well. Scott Halliday in the house. Scott remembers this waterfall. Sam Summers' hut. So, yeah, and I'm sorry about that, Scott. We went on this hike, and it was a little bit longer than what I had said. So my palette here, if this is the first time that you're seeing me, you might not have seen some of my lessons before on color and color mixing. Let's go over this palette. This is pretty much the palette that I'm using for everything. Now here, this is, I'm painting a commission right now of a mountain scene, but I'd also use this for portraits as well. It's a little bit extended. You don't need every single color here, but it's pretty, every color has its place. We'll talk about it. I hope I can find the words this morning. A bit like juggling, isn't it? Talking and painting at the same time. So we'll go over these colors one by one, but let me just replenish the palette here. And while we're doing this, go ahead and let me know where you're tuning in from in the live chat. And also, look, I'm here to answer your questions, so please do not hesitate to reach out. The way I will see your question is if you type in 3 capital Qs, QQQ. That way I'll see it, I'll flag that, I'll be able to get back to you with an answer. So, and I'll do my best to answer your questions. Try and keep them art related, but we could talk, you know, I get a lot of questions about the process, obviously, different subject matter, you know, grounds, brushes, mediums, paints, all that sort of stuff, you know, process stuff. I love this. I live to teach, and this is my passion. So do not hesitate, and I'll do my best to answer your question. I don't know everything. I just know what I know. Actually, to be honest, I don't know what I don't know. So let's just keep it real, okay? Painting's a big thing. There's so much you can know. There's so much to learn. And that's the thing I love about it, is that at the end of the day, I'm learning too. So I'll do the best I can to answer your questions. If I can't answer it, I'll say so. So, is Jen in the house? Jen Callie is in the house. Hey, Jen, how are you? Okay, apparently we're having a few buffering issues. It's going to happen. I'm coming to you from the deep south of New Zealand, and I'm going to be with you for the next 3 hours, so there may be some turbulence along the way. It's just something that is going to happen from time to time. We can handle that. We can deal with that, can't we? Again, people are not going to find this live stream unless you click on that button, that little like button. It'll help it come up in other people's feeds. And also, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, hi, my name's Andrew. I like to paint. I like to teach people how to paint. I specialize in what you could call traditional oil painting across a range of subjects, portraits, landscapes, seascapes, still life. You name it pretty much, I'll paint it, but I love the old masters and I love traditional realism. And so that's what we talk about here on this channel. If that sounds like you, make sure you're subscribed, click that bell notification icon so you're notified when I upload a video. Now I think I got all my colors. Now that I've laid them all out, I've freshened up my palette, I think we should get into it. Let's get started. Right here on my palette, I've got burnt umber, transparent red oxide, transparent yellow oxide. Earth tones always to the left of the white. What you're seeing here is a chromatic order. It's like I've unfurled the color wheel and I'm going in order of value and color. So then I got whites. I got my titanium white and my Cremnitz white. Those two whites do very different things. That is an incredibly opaque white, the titanium. It's great for coverage. But the tendency is, you know, as you're mixing this into your colors, it can make your colors go a little bit chalky. So that's where lead comes in. It's very transparent. Yes, it's real lead. When I'm getting it out, I wear some nitrile gloves. It doesn't give off a fume, so it's not dangerous unless you're really getting loads of it on your skin. But I'm a pretty clean painter, so I use it cautiously. But I've got my lead white right there. I've got a couple of new colors that I've been playing with, and I've really been enjoying these. And it's the nickel yellow right here and nickel yellow deep. Those two are really, hello Auda, nice to see you. And so that nickel yellow deep, these two are, for me, replacements for Naples because it's difficult getting genuine Naples. In fact, the brand that I use, which is Blue Ridge Oil Paint, visit blueridgeoilpaint.com, they're not doing Naples anymore because apparently the mine's drying up. where you get the genuine stuff from. But anyway, cadmium lemon, that's a good one. That one is a really pungent, high-intensity yellow. I've got Indian yellow, cadmium red light, permanent crimson, quinacridone magenta, ultramarine blue, cobalt teal, phthalo green, and chromium green oxide. Now, you do not need every one of those colors. There is a very basic landscape set right now on the Blue Ridge website under sets, and you'll click on my name and it'll pull up a list of those oil paints. The ones that you could feasibly drop would be those nickels, the Indian yellow, the permanent crimson, and the chromium green oxide. Apart from that, everything else I think has a vital place on that palette. It is very close. Gary Nix, it is very close to the prismatic palette. It's close. It varies in a few ways. Mind you, before I really go down a rabbit trail, I better check myself, because even though Joe on the podcast did mention what that was, there's there is some variations. What those are, I'm not terribly sure. I do think he uses cadmium orange at some point though in his palette. But I have a couple of videos, I think, on my YouTube channel where I talk about this, where I talk about mixing color, and I'd go out on a limb here and say I can mix just about any color you throw my way with what you see here. Piotr's in the house. Good to see you, brother. Hello, Janice. So right now, if you're just tuning in, go ahead, do me a huge favor, hit the like button. Let other people see this. We're about to get started. Right now, I'm working on something that's a little bit different. It's an interesting surface, and I'm going to be approaching this slightly differently than what you may have seen before. What am I doing here? Well, I'm working on copper. This is completely different than what I normally work on. It's copper sheet that has been primed with a lead ground, and then I've given it a very light coat of what's called imprimatura. So this is burnt sienna, burnt umber combination, rubbed back thoroughly, so it's just a stain. And right now I've gone ahead and I've mixed up a color that's going to allow me to see the lines of my composition. There's no initial lines here drawn in pencil. You can see the reference right there on the screen. Let me just take a quick minute and tell you about what I'm seeing here in this reference, because I think as an artist, when you're making these decisions about what you want to paint, often these days we are painting from photographs. Now, where I got these pictures from, we were on a plein air painting tour, so we're painting the landscape from life. But I've got my camera with me, or my iPhone, I'm just taking photographs. So often when I get back to the studio, I'm looking at these photographs, and this becomes the seed of the idea from which this concept can germinate. So what is it here in this photograph that I'm responding to? And normally what I do is I ask myself a question like, hey, what do I love? What is it about this that I'm really, that's really resonating, really landing? And when I start to tease out these things that I really enjoy about the composition, I then start identifying things that I can discard. And then I start asking, okay, well, what if I change this, that, and the other? So there's three questions here, generally, that I'm going through. What's working? What do I love about this? Right, what's not working? What can I afford to get rid of? And what if? What if I changed A, B, C, 1, 2, 3? Mixing it up, Ash Kennedy, that's right. Yeah, yep. Bit of copper sheet for you. I hope you're doing well this morning. Wherever you are, it's morning for me. What I really love about this, and you can see in that bottom image, this is a photograph of a waterfall that's taken from two different angles. So you see the bottom one, this is the lower pool of the waterfall, and then the top image is the upper pool of the waterfall. So I do like this waterfall coming down, but I also really like this lower pool and how it kind of exits out the bottom here. I think that's really cool too. I love the structure, love the rocks. So now it's just a matter of kind of fitting everything in. What I don't like is I don't like that log that is running parallel to the waterfall. It seems to mimic the width, the length, the angle of that waterfall. Got a question here from Matthew, right out of the gates. Let's go. Let's bring it, Matthew. Do you have an opinion on cotton duck as an alternative to linen? I've been looking at it as an alternative to linen because it's a lot more affordable. Yeah, just make sure it's really well primed, Matthew. That's all good. And if you're going to do something relatively small, just put that cotton canvas on a board, right? Stiffen it up, make it a little more archival. It'll improve the quality of that product rather than stretched canvas. I do use stretched linen, but it's a little more prone to cracking over time. But you know, if you're concerned with archival practices. All right, one thing I want to do is I want to make sure that there's a good flow. Now, this waterfall in my photograph, as you can see here in the bottom photograph, is right smack bang in the middle. So I don't want that. Now, by the way, I mixed up a little combination over here on a synthetic brush. This is a Rosemary Co. Evergreen Long Flat. It's burnt umber and a little bit of permanent crimson. Now, on this brush, that burnt umber and permanent crimson is actually going to mix in really nicely with my other colors. So if I'm going to create a flow compositionally, the first thing I want to do is I just want to anchor in. And by the way, I'm being very naughty, but I'm doing this for you, okay? I'm not sketching my composition first. I'm actually, believe it or not, this 18 by 25, whatever it is, this copper panel is a study for a giant painting. So I'm just going to throw paint at the canvas. I hope that's okay, but ordinarily I do like several designs first. But often with these live streams, it's just a matter of just jumping right in. I love it. So right here, I'm just going to start sketching some lines. I'm feeling like that waterfall is going to go there. Let's think strategically and then maybe link them up. There's a secondary waterfall up in here. Let me pull up a bit of reference material. I got it on my iPad right here next to the screen. So we can have, we're looking pretty much right at that pool. We won't see that pool in this particular study. And then this one will come down from here, like so. Okay, that could work. So really, I want the attention to be there. I've just moved it just shy of the middle. Now, I do have some rules with composition. I talk about this a bunch on my academy. But suffice to say, one of the biggest rules that I have is I just don't like to put stuff smack bang in the middle. I'll shift it left or right slightly. Now, something's going to go in the middle. Like, that's a given. Something is going to end up going in the middle. But I just don't want to put the main focal point bang in the middle like a bullseye. Hey, Andrew, good name, bro. Question for you. And by the way, with your questions, just make sure you 3 capital Q's in the front of your question just to make sure I see it. But good thing I just glanced at my screen just there and caught Andrew's question. How you doing, brother? Do you think glazing is a superior strategy for paintings that have more shadows and blocking in with color right away is better for paintings with more highlights? I think it depends on what you're going for. Often these days, the vast majority of my work is painted in stages, and there is a ton. And while I answer that question, I'm just going to be drawing some of these shapes in. There's a ton of glazing going on because I like to push and pull the painting. I like to create more three-dimensionality. I just can't think of a better way to do that than to glaze. Now, of course, when we're doing our direct painting, like what we're going to do this morning, my goal is, you know, in the next 3 hours, and if you're watching the replay, you might skip ahead and just see, did he make it? And then come back to this point and watch. Did I make it? I don't know. Time will tell. You probably, if you're watching in the future, you're like, nope, he didn't make it. But my goal is to get this covered in paint this morning. We'll see how we can go. See how well we do today. But I don't think it's a matter of being superior or inferior. It's just, it depends on what you're going for. What do you want to see in your painting? For me, I love three-dimensionality. I love atmosphere, and I think glazing can help bring that. But in terms of shadows and highlights, you know, keeping your highlights thick, you could go back and work in with a lighter glaze to pull out some of the texture in thicker highlights. What do I mean? Well, you can go over the top with a lighter tone and a dry brush technique. But then your shadows, if they're nice and thin, you can glaze in some darker colors, like your phthalo green permanent crimson combination, right? But glazing is just, it's a technique that I love. I don't think it matters whether it's highlight heavy or shadow heavy. So just give it a go and enjoy. All right, yeah, so there's a bit of chatter happening here. Some of my Academy members, like Ash and a few others, they're talking about the 5-hour live stream tomorrow, which is exclusively on my Academy. And tomorrow we're going to be painting waterfalls, and I'm going to be doing a series of smaller studies, 3 to be exact, which are additional studies for this painting that I really want to do. This is something that I've been wanting to paint for years. I originally saw this location on my honeymoon when I went here with my darling back in 2011. And we did this hike to Sam Summers' hut. So it's an old gold mining hut, but the waterfall behind the hut was just sensational. And I've been thinking about this going, wow, man, that would make a cool painting, but I haven't done it. And then just seeing it again just recently, it hasn't changed. The waterfall's still there, still flowing. I thought, nah, we got to do it. Hey, shout out to Susan. Susan, if you're watching, love you. Shout out to Nikki too. Shout out to Srinivas and Brent and Scott. And to Baudouin and Catalina. Well, actually, Catalina didn't join us on this hike, but Baudouin did. Absolutely beautiful location, wasn't it? So I'm sketching up some lines, and that might not make much sense, but let's get a couple of darks in there just to separate out some of these forms. I've got a smaller waterfall right there, but that's going to be the dark shadow of a rock right there. Now the synthetic brush, this really helps me create some controlled lines, some more distinct mark making, and I'm really just flicking the brush on the surface. I'm creating thin marks. I don't want copious amounts of paint here. That's not what I'm after. What I'm after is just a suggestion, and I can move it around if my imprimatura is dry. Now the imprimatura, I applied it last night, is a little sticky, but I should still be able to remove it in places, these lines that I'm putting over, if I decide something needs to be moved. And I'm just going for a nice balance of shapes. Now that said, if I decide I want to change my design, I can even change my design on the last day of the painting after I've done some final detail. It's just a matter of painting over it. The only thing that might get in my way is a little bit of texture. Now that said, with my block in, the name of the game here is speed and getting down the big shapes, the big gestures, the big lines, the vectors that are going to direct the viewer. This is about coming up with something that is like, ah, yeah, that's it. That'll work. What I really wanted to play with today is the light. I don't actually have in this photograph, you'll see, I don't have any light. And I was thinking, well, what would be really cool is if I actually went here on a sunny day and the light was dappled through this temperate beech forest that is either side of this little canyon that's been carved out by this waterfall. All right. Will you come to the UK for an art tour? Maybe one day, Techno Dad. Hey, good to see you, Techno Dad. It's been a while. Hello from Bonnie, Scotland. G'day. How are you? Yeah, so got a QQQ. Do I ever use gesso as a primer? So, Black Mark, what I use is a triple, ordinarily, I use triple primed linen. The brand that I use, and they're not a sponsor, but the brand that I use is Bel Arti. And I get mine from a company, also not a sponsor, a company called Chapman and Bailey. And they ship it to me here in New Zealand. My goodness, it is stinking hot here in the studio. But Chapman and Bailey, Melbourne-based company, send it to me here in New Zealand. Now, if I have Robin or Piotr or Ash, one of my Academy folks, Hey, you guys, would you mind just letting me know that I need to record this for y'all on the Academy? I forgot to hit the record button on my other camera. So I'm recording now, but just remind me, remind me to hit that record button. I think it's good for about half an hour. Okay, I had another one there from Diane. My liquid original is in its original cap bottle, which sticks, and I have to place it under hot water, which is a pain. What do you keep your liquid in? You can decant it into other jars. I keep mine in the bottle too. There, Diane, I keep mine in the bottle too, and sometimes the lids can be problematic. When I need a lot of liquid, I've got liter cans of it as well. So I've got a few of those in the studio. But yeah, if that's going to be an issue, just maybe decant it into a wider mouth jar, but a shallow jar that you're going to use up quite quickly. What's the benefit of painting on copper? Excellent question. I was wondering when we were going to get a question on this. So copper and lead have an affinity for one another. Now, copper is one of the most archival materials you can paint on, bar none. If it's on a really stable, rigid support, it is rigid in itself, right? But it is just a beautiful material to work on. So it's nice and smooth. And then when it's got that lead primer, it's like the lead. Look, I'm not a chemist, I'm not a physicist, I'm a numpty on the internet, all right? But from what I understand, the two bond on a molecular level almost. And it's, listen to me all fancy like, using a word like molecular, right? But you know what I mean? Like it's got an affinity for one another. And so they lock in, they key in. And so incredibly stable, incredibly archival, but it's also, there's something about it that's got a kind of, like a bit of an error or like a mystique to it. It's like, ooh, painted on copper, oil on copper. And I've painted on copper a few times and I absolutely love it. One thing, because this has absolutely no linen texture whatsoever, one thing I really am looking forward to with this is getting some like extreme detail. I'm going all out on the detail on this thing. Initially, it's going to be very loose for this session because we got 3 hours together. So don't get it twisted. It's not going to be finished in this sitting, but we're going to block in and hopefully get a really good start. You know, my work for a painting this size, this could take up to 80, maybe 100 hours. So if it's going to be, you know, painted, that's a lot for you to be hanging around for a live stream. I'm sure you got things to do. Don't tempt me, my Academy folks. I might do an 80-hour live stream here at some point. I am crazy. So I really enjoy the idea that I'm going to be able to get that detail in here. And so I kind of oscillate between painting in a slightly looser style, getting more paint out. I'm doing that with a commission at the moment, painting Milford Sound. But I kind of go between this looser style, but then hyper-realistic detail, and I kind of enjoy both. You know what I mean? Hello, Antje. How are you? Have you planning to visit to the Netherlands to visit the Dutch Master? One day, Ed. It'd be a dream to get there. It'd be a dream to get there. Okay. Hey, by the way, thanks for tuning in to the live stream. If you're watching live, shout out. I hope you enjoyed this one. I'm just sketching up my composition. So far, you can probably see pretty clearly where this initial waterfall is going to be. And then I've got my secondary waterfall back here. I've obscured it somewhat with a little lip. Now, who here in the live chat besides Scott? Do I have Baudouin in the house? Do I have Nikki in the house? What about Susan? Who else here went to this? Come on, let me hear from you. Absolutely beautiful location. New Zealand does have some incredible places, and I'll be doing another tour. I'm actually doing 3 tours next year. January, February, and March of next year. And the folks on my Academy are going to be first to know about it. The last tour, it sold out in about 12 hours. First, I put it out to my Academy folks. They had a couple of weeks to chew on it, and then I sent an email. We never We never even marketed that thing. But we ended up having people coming from all over the world. It was just awesome. So I will be running those again. It reinvigorated me and re-inspired me like you wouldn't believe. And I hope the folks that joined me on that tour were just as inspired as I was. Just amazing. Seeing it's almost like seeing your own backyard, but when you're seeing it through somebody else's eyes and they're experiencing this for the first time, it's just awesome. Made several friends for life there. It was so cool. Hey, Dan Beresford, how you doing, man? How's the new studio going, Dan? All right. So, first step, I want to just make sure I get this composition nailed down. And I'm going to continue to load up onto my brush this burnt umber. By the way, a little bit of oil draining off that nickel yellow. That never hurt anybody. So I'm going to continue to mix up this burnt umber and permanent crimson. There's actually, it's interesting in this composition, there is no sky at all, but that's okay. It's a deeper, darker scene. It's down here on the bottom of this gorge. Just love it. We got another cliff wall that's coming up here. Give it a little verticality. Just making a note to myself that I'm going to shade that out. I've got my other waterfall right here. We'll shade up to the boundary of that waterfall, just flicking with the brush. Again, there can't be any accumulation of thick paint, but you might be wondering, how on earth is that crimson and burnt umber going to work with some of these colors? Is that not going to bleed and blend and make some sort of mud? Well, it actually forms a really nice tone. If I don't have the permanent crimson, I'll use quinacridone magenta for this too. It makes a really nice color that actually works so harmoniously with the other colors that I'm mixing in. And wherever it shows through, in little gaps in the brushwork, it adds a little pop of warmth, which is quite nice. Andrew, what lighting do I use? Kiri, fantastic question. So in my studio currently, just above me, I'm using two bulbs. They're UG LEDs. They're called UG LEDs. Also, what's lighting me right now with this, why don't I just turn this camera around and show you? Let's have a look here. How about I do this? I'll go here to this one. I'll keep my reference in my other little screen up there. But this is what I got, Kiri, and anybody else who wants to know. I'll take this one off of here. You're going to get a little motion sick here for a second. Can I remove that? Is that going to let me remove it? There we go. Ah, very good. Okay, here we go. There's one UG LED, a big softbox dome. That's just for my lighting on this live stream. And there's another UG LED, and I've got them installed in softboxes. They're just screw-in bulbs. Now, the beauty with those bulbs is that they have a high CRI. And CRI simply means the color rendering index. I have to shout out Piotr here, who's in the live chat. Piotr actually put me onto these bulbs, and they're just absolutely phenomenal. And I know Renato Michello uses something similar. I don't know if he uses exactly this brand. I think he might use Color Wave, or there's another brand that he might use. But essentially, the idea is a lot of artificial light, particularly cheaper artificial light, it's got this massive blue spike in it when you look at the wave of the colors. So there's a bit of red, bit of yellow. But what you're looking for is as close to what's called full spectrum. So with this massive blue spike, you're not getting that full color reflected back to you. So that it almost feels like there's something missing. And a lot of the bulbs that I was painting under were actually 80 CRI, which is terrible, absolutely terrible. And it can cause eye strain after a while. So these have been an absolute game changer. So I thank Piotr for putting me onto them. And I now no longer paint under the LEDs. I paint under these, well, they're still LEDs, but they're just a really high quality one. So that's the lighting that I'm using in the studio. The softbox dome, just incidentally, is a high CRI as well. So the UG LEDs, I think, are about 98. My softbox dome is 97. You want to get as close to 100 as possible. So yeah, nearly 350 watches. Ah, fantastic. Awesome. Awesome. That's a few. Welcome to the studio, by the way. If you're new here, hello, my name's Andrew Tischler. I like to paint, and I like to teach people how to paint. So I'm here to answer your questions. Go ahead and hit me up in the live chat if you're watching live. If you're not watching live and you're watching the replay and you missed the live stream and you'd like to see a future live stream, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. That's what it's all about. So I've got a composition. I think I'm ready to go. What I'm liking about this is it's got a flow. No pun intended, but it's got a flow from one thing to another to another. There is one weak point though, however. I do think I want to make this more of a ribbon of a waterfall. I want to change its shape and not have it be such a pronounced curve and maybe have like a slight kick out in that waterfall so that we can just see a glimpse of it there and then more of a flow right here. I also don't want this to be the same length. So I'll clip the top off it. I just want to have it be different to that one there. So I think that by making that heavier and that a little bit more subordinate to that, I think it's going to make a better composition. I don't know. You tell me what you think in those comments. But we have a composition. And now I think I'm ready to start getting out some color and start adding it to this scene. What fun! I hope you're doing well. I hope you're in good form. Before we jump into it, though, let me just take a quick minute here. We're going to be together here for about 3 hours, but let me just take a quick minute here and tell you about this live stream sponsor. Ha! Just kidding. It's me. I am this live stream sponsor. Now, look, this has become my absolute passion project. Tisch Academy, it's now grown into something that is just phenomenal. And that's all thanks to the wonderful members that are part of this exclusive community online, which you can be a member of too. What's it all about? What is Tisch Academy? Tisch Academy is an online art school. It's basically the art school that I wish I had when I was first coming up and starting out. You know, art school is expensive. And when you get there and you're locked in for a period of years, and I mean locked in for a period of years, are they even going to teach you anything? I learned the hard way. In my 3 years of university art training, all I came out with was pretty much a bad attitude. I was jaded, I was broken. Now some people got more out of it than I did, but one thing was for sure, they didn't teach technique. Zero technical training. It was all theory. So I learned the hard way. Don't do what I did. But anyway, check it out. If you visit tisch.academy right now, you're going to get access to hundreds of hours of content. We counted up the content library. It's over 350 hours of content, and I'm adding several hours of content each week. And not to mention, you get access at the Academy tier, at the Academy VIP tier, you get access to those weekly live streams. Tomorrow live stream for my Academy VIPs is 5 hours long. You don't have to watch it all in one hit. It's all recorded. You can come back and watch bits. People come and go, you know, during the live stream. That's all good. But it's an awesome time where we're all hanging out and geeking out about art. You also get access to critique videos, art business videos. And if you're, by the way, if you're wondering, hey, do I get access to full-length tutorials and demonstrations? Yes. And they're split and organized into different courses depending on what you want to study and things that you want to learn. Now, good thing is, and this is going to be happening this year, right now, I'm the artist on Tisch Academy. Towards the end of this year, we're going to have a few other artists that are taking part in Tisch Academy, which I'm really excited about. So I'll be announcing that very soon as well. But just a little sneak peek there. So right now, if you go over there to Tisch Academy, here we are. This is what you're going to come to this page. So check out the video, watch that little video, and it will tell you what it's all about. But again, when you're here, you'll see all the different features of it. The best thing about this, though, And don't take my word for it. Check out some of those testimonials. Those are real people, by the way. And the real people that are here in the live chat, go ahead and let me know right now in the live chat, what do you think of Tisch Academy? So, I'm not going to pay them to say what they're about to say. So check it out. When you sign up, you're going to get a free 7-day trial. But the other thing that's really important is you're going to get a 30-day money-back guarantee. So try it risk-free on me. There's no lock-in contract at all. And if at any time in that 30 days you're not satisfied, no worries, no hard feelings, money back. But at least you can try it for 7 days for nothing. So check that out. Thank you very much for allowing this brief interruption. I think we should get back to painting. So all you got to do is go to tish.academy. There it is there at the bottom of the screen, tish.academy. And I hope to see you there. If you sign up today, or if you open a new tab and sign up now, you can check out tomorrow's live stream, which is going to be 5 hours long of more paint and goodness. And it's not just landscapes, by the way. We do portraits, we do seascapes, we do still lifes, we do all sorts of things. But take your painting further, check it out, and thank you again for allowing this brief interruption. Let's get back to it and keep painting our waterfall. Let's mix up some color now and throw that on this canvas. All right, and hey, by the way, a big thank you to everybody right now that's in the Academy that's given me so many kind words. I really appreciate it. Amy Brady, thank you. Says, the online Academy is one of the best teaching events ever. Andrew is so generous with sharing his vast knowledge. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's so kind of you. The Academy is amazing. Hey, shout out Sarah Wiseman. I was just on a Zoom call with Sarah. That was yesterday. Goodness me. And we were talking all about art business. And so that's something that I'm also very passionate about, is the business side of art. So check out the Creator Activator course if you're wanting to go pro or wanting to know, what's it take to just push this thing to the next level. Dan Beresford, you're too kind, man. Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Yeah, look, what makes that Academy, as Jim Meeker is saying, the community is friggin' awesome, dude. It's absolutely awesome. Okay, enough about that. Let's paint. Let's paint. Let's paint. So over here on the palette, I've got my colors. You might notice that we're a little bit lacking in terms of green, but I've got my chromium green oxide. I got my phthalo green. Now, I'm going to be more or less mixing my greens, and I'm going to start off muted. The block-ins, they're never quite as colorful as the full final version. So I'm starting off purposefully a little bit darker. Now, my students are about to say, hey, I know what you're mixing there. You're starting off the same way you start every painting. A little bit of burnt umber, a little bit of ultramarine blue, a little bit of crimnets, a little bit of titanium too. I'm going to mix some off grays. I'm going to start actually, and we're going to be painting all around this thing. The depth is pretty shallow here. Ordinarily, I start with whatever's furthest away, work my way forward. I'm still going to continue to do that, but we're going to start here in the background. And I see a little bit of gray here for these rocks. And in no particular order, I'm going to mix up some grays. I'm going to mix up some browns and some greens. And the brushes I'm using, by the way, I'm really loving these at the moment. These are softer brushes which carry the paint really well on a smooth surface. So if I'm working on copper or a very fine weave linen, then I'll use a softer brush initially and then build up once that layer is dry. Now, the thing is that if I was using a stiff bristle brush, it'd be pushing and raking that paint all the way across, and I'd get a lot of that imprimatura showing through as lighter marks. So a softer brush for the initial block in on a smooth surface. Now, let's mix up a green color here. I've got a little burnt umber, a little bit of ultramarine blue. So start off with a gray. By the way, those two neutralize each other and they go black. You'll notice I don't have black on my palette, but they'll go very dark indeed, as you can see there. I'm going to mix into that a little bit of cobalt teal, and I'm going for this mossy color, a little bit of transparent yellow oxide. Now that mossy color, I'm seeing some evidence of moss in this scene. Now that's a little bit dark, too dark, but I like it. Let's get a few strokes of dark in here, seeing as I've got that on my brush now. What I love is I love this overcast day and this soft light that's shining down in the scene, and how we've got a very, it's a soft ambience that's created in this space. But what I think would be really cool is to contrast that with some sharp light in a dappled fashion that's just bursting through that canopy above. Now, I think that light is going to be something that I'm going to save for the end of this session, because I haven't decided exactly how it's going to look. But generally speaking, I use light in my paintings to point the viewer in particular directions. I want the viewer to look over here, look over there, and sometimes by just shining a light on the situation, you can actually direct the viewer in that way. All right, so the idea behind this as well is I want to be effective here with my mark making. I want to cover the ground quickly, but I also want to be communicative with my brushwork. I want this to really communicate the material. Now, with my process and what you're about to hear, these are kind of fundamental considerations for any traditional representational art. But what I'm thinking about is I'm thinking about my line and my shape, right? My tonal values, so my range of how light something is, how dark something is, and my colors. And I'm also thinking about edge quality, how one thing meets another. And what I'm trying to do with these four considerations are, I'm trying to create a sense of form, depth, light, and material. Form, depth, light, and material. Now, if I do a really good job with those first four considerations, by the way, I know you're going, that was 5 you mentioned. Yeah, line and shape are a linear consideration. I lump those together as one, but good catch, good catch. But if I do a really good job, I can create that sense of three-dimensionality, form, depth, light, and material. Now, that light, this is going to be a consideration of tone and color. But also, line does play a role with creating light. Light travels in straight lines, right? It's going to create, in this scenario, some interesting patterns and shapes on the ground. And that edge quality as well is going to be important with creating a sense of light. So I don't know if that's coming through, but you can also see that what I'm doing is I'm continually reloading my brush. Now, this is the thing. My students on my art tour were absolutely sick of me saying it. But I was like, whoa, pause, reload, make a couple of strokes, reload that brush. Do you ever have this issue where your paint gets thinner and thinner and your surface gets scrubbier and scrubbier and you're smushing and blending everything out into oblivion? If that's you, okay, then maybe what I'm about to do and these little tricks here will help you get a little bit more of a painterly look. I know we're going for detail, but a little bit more of a painterly look. There's something I'm going to do to this surface right towards the end of this session that, look, I hope it's going to blow your mind because it's going to be, I probably shouldn't put too much pressure on myself, but it's kind of cool. I'm looking forward to it anyway. Nikki, how are you? I got a question here from Nikki. Good to see you, Nikki. What is the final focal point you have in mind, please? Curious as to painting too. Fantastic. Okay, so look, I really feel like my focal point is going to be this waterfall here in the foreground, but I really, speaking of light, I want to use the light to draw attention here. So let's just, spoiler alert, let's just say what if there was an opening in the trees just above this, just a little bit of an opening. Have you ever seen the way that light will shine through gaps in leaves? And it just looks like these little pinpoints of light. And under like a, let's say like an oak tree or something like that, as that sun just bursts through in just a couple of places, you get this intense shaft of light. And I'm thinking, what if I just illuminated where that white water is there? So the sun would have to be shining on this waterfall slightly over, I'm thinking slightly over my left shoulder, shining downwards. And then I could illuminate a couple of spots here, maybe down in the pool, but also here on that waterfall. And then what I'm hoping is that the viewer's attention will go bang right there. So that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. Anyway. All right. Andrew, camera, yes. Piotr, thank you so much, brother. Yes, I'm still recording there, brother. Still recording. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to get set up, and I'm going to go to my close cam and give you a better look as I work here in the background. And now that I know I've got that in focus, here we go. Is that, yep, we're working. Okay, cool. So hopefully here you'll be able to see as I just map out this part of the painting. And we'll talk more about these colors. Now I keep the green relatively muted, but there are a couple of aspects of a slightly more saturated green. What I mean by saturated is slightly higher chroma. So a little bit more intense in terms of that green, and I definitely see that close to the edge of this waterfall here, for instance. Having a couple of brushes on the go is really handy. So I'm going to work with both this rock color and my green moss color at the same time. That rock color, one more time, is primarily burnt umber and white, and a touch of that ultramarine blue. In some areas, it appears slightly browner. But what we want to do is we want to push that paint in, flip my brush around, get a few more strokes, but I'm generally doing about 5 to 6 strokes per brush load. I'm able to carry these brushes a little bit further. Some of my academy students are yelling right now at their screens going, hang on a second, that's too many brush strokes there, fella. But with this softer brush and the amount of paint it's carrying, I can get away with a few more strokes. But I continually reload and remix as I go. This means that every stroke of color, it's slightly different. It's got a little bit more blue in it, a little bit more yellow in it, a little bit more green in it. It's slightly different. And so that fragments the surface and keeps it a little more interesting. I'm going to turn my cap backwards so I don't get in your way, because my big numpty head is going to get right in your way. And I want you to see what's going on here. Now, again, I'm here for you, so if you've got questions, I'll do my best to answer your questions here. But thanks again for tuning in. And again, if you're watching the replay of this live stream, remember, if you are subscribed to the channel, you will be notified when I do another live stream. So make sure you're subscribed and hit that bell notification icon so you're notified when I go live in the future. Now, by the way, there should be a link below this video, in the description below this video, to my mailing list. A link. Okay. Cool. Thanks. There should be a link there to my mailing list, and my email subscribers that have 24-hour early bird access to videos just got a video drop last night on framing. I was talking in this video about making a frame pretty much from garbage. It was made out of scraps that the picture framer was going to throw away, and I refinished it. And there's a full Academy version that was just put out as well, where it's nearly an hour, about 45 minutes I think it is, the full version on the Academy. But this was a lot of fun, this project. So if you want to be notified about videos that, before anybody else is, make sure you're subscribed. And I'm in touch with my subscribers there pretty regularly, but I promise I'm not going to spam you. It's not one of those lists. You're not going to hear from me every day. You're busy, you got stuff to do. But when I got something new, like a YouTube video drop, my subscribers are pretty much always the first to know. I'm seeing a slightly lighter green towards the top here in this painting. So in my reference material, Piotr makes some nice frames. I follow you, Piotr, on Instagram, but I've seen some of your frames, brother. They're nice frames. Angus has got a question. Would you recommend a traditional approach, sketch, monochromatic drawing, grisaille, glazing, to refine each layer? Angus, fantastic question. That's an approach I really love, in particular for portraiture. I painted this one, and I haven't gone back to it recently, but I painted this one picture of my wife, Rachel, using that method. I first started off with a tonal underpainting called a bistre, went over that with what's called a grisaille, so painted in gray, and then started laying in color in a series of glazes. First color, second color, so on and so forth. This is great if you're working on a very smooth surface, on a board or on copper or on a fine weave linen. I was working on linen for that one, on board, on linen on board. And it was, oh man, it was awesome fun. And I think the painting came out okay. If you want to see that, by the way, that's available in my painting portraits tutorial. It's a 6-part series. You'll find that on my website, tischler.nz or andrewtischler.com. Both links there will get you there. But check it out on my website. There's a 6-part series, and she is one of those parts. It's just, that was awesome fun, that portrait. So for a landscape, I haven't actually approached that with landscape, but I tell you what, man, Angus, you give me a good idea. So I will work on that for a landscape painting. That sounds like it could be really cool, actually. Really cool. Now, if you're wanting to know, like, hang on a second, what did you just say? Bistre? Wait. Grisaille? What are you talking about there, guy? Well, these are incredibly traditional, technical approaches, but they're a lot of fun, and they're worth playing with at some time in your creative journey. So this is what how they used to paint in the 17th, 18th century, but, and even, you know, obviously there's a lot of artists doing it today. But it's a technique where you can build up your layers and your surface very slowly and gradually, just working one thin layer at a time. And it just creates a beautiful aesthetic. Very traditional approach. It takes quite a bit of time, though, and a lot of drying between layers. Unless you're using something like liquid, which I do use, and I will couple that with a traditional approach, which might rub some people the wrong way, but hey, you do you, it's all good. Which brings me to something you might be wondering, what medium am I using for this painting? And I'm using liquid original, an alkyd resin, and I'm also using liquid impasto, but I haven't had any need to get that out just yet. But the original and the impasto are both very fast drying mediums, which will allow me to layer into this and layer over it the very next day. Which can be handy if you don't want to wait for days and days and days for your details to dry before you can get to work on your stinking painting again. So I find that very, very handy. Am I working off the screen like a numpty? I might be. Okay, well, I'll try not to do that. I want you to see what you're seeing. You're having tech difficulties. Am I having tech difficulties? I don't know. Can you let me know if you can see and hear me still? Thank you for the shout out, Kyle. Appreciate it. Jim Fairburn, is the stream still going?
A little bit up. Yeah, it looks like it's still going.
Still going? Okay, just refresh your page there, Kyle, if you can hear me. Just refresh your page. And yeah, and thanks for the little heads up there, though. That's all good. Rocks are my nemesis. I can never make them look like rocks. Hey, Techno Dad, let's talk. Let's talk right now. Okay, what I want to do is with rocks, first, it helps having great reference, Techno Dad, am I right? It does help having really great reference. But I want to start working on this little collection of rocks here at the base of this waterfall. And what I'm seeing is I'm seeing sharp edges, well-defined shapes. And so knowing that, going in and continually reloading my brush is going to help. Now, I've got a little bit of a smaller Series 274 here. This one is size 6, whereas these ones that I was using previously are size 8. You can see the difference here in those sizes. So a size 6 and a size 8. Let's mix up here a little bit of lighter color to go on top of the rocks. So the trick with rocks, just in our block in here anyway, is clearly defined shapes and edges. If you're going to have a smooth edge, it's going to create a little bit of roundness in your rock form. Now, you see that little collection of rocks in that lower image there? There's a rock here that is just above this waterfall. And so I start adding in, I've added in my shadow first, and I'm working into my shadow with some of that lighter color, but in order to create clearly defined edges, I have to continually go through and reload my brush. And just have a look. Now, in tomorrow's live stream on my Academy, I want somebody to just have a look and keep track of how much time I'm spending in my palette versus how much time I'm spending on the actual canvas. I think you're going to see, I've probably had a bit too much coffee already. I'm 3 coffees in, and this is not great for controlled hand movements, I can tell you that much. Coffee is probably the most important medium I have here in the studio. It's what makes me flow. All right, thank you, Jim Meeker. Appreciate the heads up there. But what I was saying is I want my Academy peeps to tell me how much time am I spending on my palette versus how much time am I actually spending on the canvas. When you're just starting out, you spend more time at the canvas. But I'm telling you right now, if you spend more time mixing the color and loading your brush, and then just considering the mark, make a statement, and then just move on. That might help you when it comes to painting something like rocks. So here, I'm looking again at that reference material. I'm getting a sense of what is that rock is comprised of, what's going on here, and I'm making a statement, put that brush down, lift it up, move on. So the trick with rocks there, Techno Dad and anybody else who wants to know, is those shapes and edges, making sure they're clearly defined. Now you can make them look a little bit cube-like, and maybe rocks don't tend to look like that. I mean, this isn't a breeze block here at the bottom of our canyon. So if you see something that bothers you in terms of a shape, just come along and break it slightly. And just a little break can help create a sense of texture, a sense of a little bit more of a complicated form. But I tell you what, I love rocks. Early in my career, when I first started out, and I was starting to build a profile and a name for myself over there in Perth in Western Australia, where I came up, I got known as the rocks and water guy. So I love me some rocks. Now, I don't know much about rocks, but one of the greatest compliments I ever received was from a geologist who poked his head into the gallery and told my agent, hey, tell that boy he knows rocks. So I was like, oh, thanks, dude. So I don't know rocks, but I sure do love to paint them. But that's one thing that I've found, is that clearly defined shapes and edges can really help you in that regard. If you're trying to get rocks to look like they've got texture and they're fragmented and they're chibbly. QQQ, Mac here, currently working on a painting of a Jeep with grass behind it. What are the tips and colors and brushes? Thanks for the email. Listen, hey, Kyle, great question. And sorry, Mac, Mac is it? Okay. And I remember you, Mac, from a previous live stream. Remind me, Mac, and apologies if I'm getting this wrong. You're 11 or 12, is that right? Let me know. Well done, you. I think I was giving you some life and business advice in the last live stream, wasn't I? If that was you, Mac. But anyway, good question. Look, what I'd recommend doing is get your hands on that landscape set. Doesn't have to be from Blue Ridge. Just write down the colors. Get them maybe even at maybe some of the cheaper, the grade, and get your head around the palette. But what you want is a chromatic palette, kind of like this. And I'd really recommend that. So then it's going to be about, hey, what does your painting need? I would hesitate to give you a, hey, for a Jeep, use these colors. I mean, what kind of Jeep are we talking about? What kind of grass are we talking about? Is your Jeep on the African savanna? Or is it in a New Zealand pasture? That's going to change dramatically the colors that you're using. Okay? All right. Ashley, are you fussing with your painting again? Stop that. Stop it now. All right, Nikki, not a cue, but loving that the palette is so visible. Cool. Awesome. Are you picking up what I'm putting down with these rocks? I'm just going to stand up here and just see. Yeah, you can see from that angle. Cool. Hopefully you're starting to see now. Let's go back to that wide angle. How I'm working here and how hopefully that image is starting to emerge. But, oh man, I'm loving these brushes. Oh, I love these brushes so much. So much. Shout out to my good people there at Rosemary & Co. There should be a link for Rosemary & Co. Hang on one. Okay, there should be, it wasn't in there currently, but it's going in there right now. But there should be a link for Rosemary & Co. and Blue Ridge in the description box. So shout out to my good people there at Rosemary & Co. Good people. They make a good brush, man. See a couple of dark shadows here on the edge of the painting, and that darkness, I'm actually going to lean into that darkness here because the darkness is going to help me create a little bit of tonal contrast and hopefully allow the interior of the painting to look a little bit lighter, and so it commands a bit more attention. Thank you, Piotr. Look, I think what I'll do is a new take there, brother. I will keep recording, though. And we'll do take 2. Thank you for the reminder, man. 9 years, Mac. 9 years, brother. Wow, dude. Wow. So what I'd recommend there, Mac, then, in that case, go ahead and make a study, brother. Make a study. Anytime I do something big, I make something little first. I have a plan, and I play with my colors, I play with my mixes first, and then I'll make it into something larger once I know that this is going to work. So you might be going, well, hang on a second, but you're not doing that here. Well, hang on, yes I am. The final version of this waterfall, whichever one I'm going to choose, is going to be a huge painting. So for the huge painting, I'm talking like 2 meters by 3 meters vertical, like a big painting. This is a study for something that scale. So I love to work big, man. I love big paintings. So you got to have a plan. You're not going to just start building a house without a plan. All right. It sounds like a cool project, Mac. A Jeep and grass, that could be really neat. I remember when I was friggin' 8 or 9, maybe 10. Oh no, I would have been 10. For a school project, I designed my own car. It was an off-road machine. It was called the Ibex. And I had to do designs and plans and all that sort of stuff for, you bring back some memories there, bro. That's cool. What a neat project. So, hey, get into it. Thank you, Sorish. Appreciate that. Finally having a proper art studio. My lad moved out and I've got the room. Well done, Techno Dad. Excellent. No worries, Ashley. I've got you. I've got your back. Okay, and again, Marnus and anybody else, if you're watching the live stream live and you're in the live chat right now, do me a huge favor, and if you've got a question, put QQQ in front of your question. That way I'll see it and I'll answer it. So I'm juggling right now here in the studio, the cameras, the technical stuff, the stream, switching up the angles, reading the chat, and trying to paint a picture while I'm doing it. And trying not to, I think if I wasn't sitting down, I'd forget how to stand up while doing all this stuff. So do me a huge favor. Hit that QQQ so I can see your question here in the chat. But anyway, I caught it. I've got it here. Where are you? I did have it. Now it's gone off the screen. Where are you, brother? Come back here. Here he is. Currently painting a portrait of my late grandpa. Okay. I just can't seem to get the lighting right. Any tips? Yes. Okay. And this is often the case if you are painting somebody that's deceased. You might not have the reference material that you need. What I would use is a stand-in, like a light model, to get an idea of the fall of light and shadows on your portrait by using somebody else, and then see if you could translate that information to the actual final painting. But it can be tricky. Is it a black and white photograph that you're working from, Marnus? Let me know. But you'll find a bit of this course material on the Academy if you're interested in taking those portraits further. It might give you what you need in terms of lighting. But lighting for a portrait is essential. Now, I choose a particular kind of lighting, you may have noticed. It's kind of like this two-tone directional lighting that is just getting a little bit of a mid-tone gray here in my cliff. Getting that blocked in. But I love like a soft fill-in light, or what's actually called a key light. So my main light is very soft. I use a soft box to photograph my models, or I'll take them outside in open ambient light, so open skylight. And then I'll have a directional accent light. So in the studio, it'll be, without diffusion, it'll be an LED panel with very sharp, often it's a color. So I'll go cool on my main light, and I'll go very warm, almost hot, sometimes an orange or a red light for an intense highlight. And I just love that effect. Some people find it a little bit too much. That's okay. I love it. All right. Hello, B. Jones. Good to see you. Hey, the art Gustavo. Gustavo, you're awesome, bro. Any tips for transitioning from painting small to larger paintings? Ashley, great question. The main thing is, if you're wanting to start working big, I would just start with those medium sizes first, those in-between stages, to just get your head around bigger brushes, bolder strokes, more paint. It's going to take more paint and bolder strokes to pull off those bigger paintings. Initially, I found my larger work to be clunky and awkward, and it's a lot. Like doing a big painting is kind of like riding a bull. You have no idea what direction it's going to go in, and it could be a complete, well, I've found it could be a complete disaster, and you could get caught and just literally caught in the weeds. So my recommendation there, Ashley, is go ahead and have a plan, have a really clear idea about what it is that you want to paint. Lots of designs, lots of compositional studies, some drawings, some oil studies, and then get stuck into it. And enjoy it. Enjoy the process. And the more you do it, the more you paint big, the better it's going to get. Most of my tutorials are actually quite large paintings. And I mean, the lessons translate whether they're going to be a small painting or a large painting. So get into it. Now, don't let that fear of failure or the size of the canvas intimidate you. Go in there, fail spectacularly, and learn a lesson. And then you're going to start to realize, hang on a second, the amount that I'm learning here from things that I'm deeming to be a flop or a failure, hey, there's no such thing as failure at all. The reason I say that, not that you're going to fail, Ashley, I don't mean to sound negative, but it's that fear that creeps up. If you can just nip that in the bud right away, then you can fearlessly go into this big project knowing, hey, regardless of what happens here, I'm going to learn, I'm going to have an awesome time. So, as you can see, I'm piecing this painting together just one stroke at a time, and I'm using this brush to just provide me with those tiles of color. Again, have you noticed how much time I'm spending in my palette, continually mixing, continually reloading? And because the brushes are soft, I'm getting a few more strokes out, pushing that paint a little bit further. Generally, it's like 2, 3, maybe 4 strokes with bristle brushes on linen before I have to reload that brush. But now that paint is going pretty far. Let's do a little test though. Let's have a little experiment here. I'm gonna go ahead and load up this brush. Let's see how much ground we can cover. Now, granted, it will be one color, but it'll be a combination of burnt umber and ultramarine blue. There's some dark happening over on this side. Let me zoom out on my reference here. And let's just start here and see how much ground we can actually cover with this load of paint before the paint starts to become ineffective. A bit of texture there, a bit of a rough surface. That's okay. That don't make no never mind. That's fine. But I don't know who's counting. I'm not counting, but what have I got? 30 strokes so far? Maybe I'm starting to approach 40. I've got a lot of paint still up in my ferrule. This thing is pretty heavily loaded. That's about the extent of that dark shape. But as long as I'm still being effective, and by the way, what you might not be able to see on the camera, let me just stand up here and see if I can see it. You might not be able to see it there, but the strokes are effective. Still, can I say that? Like, I mean, what I mean by that is it's actually doing what I intended for this to do. I mean, it's covering the ground, but I'm changing the direction so I can get a little sense of texture in there. But one thing I might want to do is just break it up, because I don't want any big monotonous shapes, particularly big dark shadowed shape. You want to break it up, keep that interest in here. But you can go, suffice to say, you can go pretty far with these brushes. Still, half a dozen strokes, reload, change up the color to fragment that surface and maintain interest. QQQ from Zimbert. And I got one from Albert and Angus and Tom. Okay, let's get through these. I know you touched, this from Tom, you touched base on lighting, but how often do you change the lighting from your source to fit your composition? Now, Tom, I might need some clarification, but what I think you're saying, I hope I'm understanding your question right, but this is lighting in terms of the painting or actually lighting in the studio? In the lighting in my studio, it's pretty much consistent. Well, one day I will build my own studio. One day, that'll be the dream. I have no immediate plans to do that, in case you caught the studio build video, which is up on my channel. But one day I will be building my own, and I'm going to take into account natural lighting, which will fluctuate through the day. And of course, natural lighting is going to be totally dependent on daylight hours, right? But if you're talking about lighting in the painting, I will often interpret and reinterpret lighting in my painting and create more light or less light to fit the idea. But I rarely just paint exactly what I'm seeing in the photograph. So I want to change up the lighting here in this scenario in my painting. So whether you're talking about studio lighting, I hope that answers it, or the lighting in the painting, well, I hope that answers it too. Now, we got one there from Angus. I've used egg tempera. I have not, but I really do love it. And there's some phenomenal artists out there that are using it. There's one artist here in New Zealand who does amazing egg tempera work. His name's Simon Richardson. Phenomenal, phenomenal painter. He actually did this painting of a piece of Vegemite toast, and I tell you what, that painting will change your life. It's amazing. And I'm not saying that to try and be funny. He actually legit painted a piece of Vegemite toast. It is incredible. So shout out to Simon in case he ever sees this. You rock, dude. Right. Are you planning any trips outside of New Zealand and Australia, as well as some landscapes inspired by those places? Yes, I am. Next year, I will be in the United States, and I'm also going to be in France next year. So, shout out to all my French friends and all my fellow Americans. I am, of course, a Texan living down here in New Zealand. I left Texas when I was very young. I was 6 years old. I didn't do it on my own. I moved with my family. It's pretty young for a fella to go hitchhiking. But I left Texas, moved to Wellington, then moved to Australia, grew up in both New Zealand and Australia. And then I met a wonderful Kiwi girl. And we got married about 14 years ago. So now I live here in New Zealand, and we have a son, and it's awesome. But anyway, you didn't ask for my life story. But yes, I'm traveling. I'm coming overseas. So there you go. Zimbert, as an aspiring professional still building my brand, how do you price your paintings? Is there a base rate, like per hour rate? Or is it based on the size of the canvas, like $1 per square inch? Zimbert, both. I price to size and I price to time. So what do I mean by that? Well, what I'd do is I'd calculate, Zimbert, what your hourly rate of what you would love to get paid, and try and keep it reasonable. Of course, you'd be like, $1,000 an hour. You know, that would be wonderful. And you might very well be worth that, okay? I'm not saying you're not, but keep it real. So what I did is I go, okay, well, look, I'm not going to be in the class of doctor or lawyer in terms of my hourly rate, so hundreds of dollars per hour. But I might be in the class of maybe a trained professional who does something like a skilled trade, right? Like a plumber, electrician, like a skilled carpenter. You know, to hire somebody with those types of skills, because of their training, the time they put into it, and the demand on their services, they're generally charging somewhere around $50 an hour, 60, 70, depending on where you are in the world, right? But I was going, okay, give me a reasonable price for a skilled tradesman, right? And what would that sort of individual get paid? So that's where I started, and then I calculated and I kept meticulous track of how long paintings were taking me, and then I just times hours by that hourly rate, and I got a certain amount. But then what I did is I started to realize how much time an 8x10 was taking, how much time a 10x12, 16x20, 20x24, 24x36, 36x48, so on and so forth. How much time was this actually taking? And I had some real data to be able to work with. And then I was able to say, okay, roughly that 36x48 should take me a month if I'm not screwing around. I've got a good design. I've got a good plan. You know, I'm on fire. I'm executing it just the way I know how. Okay, so that should be, I should be in the right ballpark to take about a month to do a 36x48. So then you come up with the price for that, and then you could start pricing by size. But initially what I'd do is I'd calculate what your hourly rate is, and then get paid for your time. But one little slight difference, you want to add your material costs to that as well. So hourly rate plus material costs. Here in this country, 15% GST, put that on top, add that to your price, right? And then goods and services tax. I think in the UK it's called a VAT. Value-added tax. I think Australia has a 10% GST. Here it's 15. So you want to factor that in. And then you're good to go. Does that make sense? Vegemite or Marmite, Techno Dad. Neither. They're both disgusting. What about using Portland Grays? Where can I find your video, please? I don't use Portland Grays. What do you mean by Portland Grays? Shauna, how are you? Which rosemary coat brushes are you using? At the moment, they're all flat series 274s. You know, I'd love to use me some Tisch daggers right about now, but it's on copper if you're just tuning in. This is a copper panel, very smooth surface. And so the brushes that I'm using tend to be a little bit softer when I'm working on very smooth surfaces. Anyway, I want to say a huge thank you for tuning into the live stream. If you're just tuning in, welcome. we've basically reached the halfway point, which is telling me that I need to get an absolute wiggle on and stop being such a numpty, actually get painting. But it's wonderful having your company here in the studio. And you know, you could be doing all kinds of things right now, and maybe you should be doing other things right now, but you're here with me and all of us here in the studio watching this video. And that actually means something to me. That's important. I appreciate that. You must like painting. So if you are spending this time here with me, then hey, thank you. You rock. Make sure you hit the like button. Please hit that like button. That's how YouTube lets people know that there's a live stream going on while it's live, but also lets people know that people are enjoying it and it recommends it to more people. So if you haven't hit that like button yet, please hit that like button. If you're not subscribed, hey, make sure you subscribe too. My name's Andrew. I like to paint, and my mission is to help you go to the next level with your painting. Whatever that means for you, I want to give you the tools and the techniques and the strategies, all the tips that you need to achieve your artistic vision, see that come to life. All right. Couple of trees just breaking up the top. I don't have any of that light or any indication of that light coming through just yet, but we will. Bear with me. It's coming. These soft brushes, really, I'm really digging them. They're helping carry that paint really far, and I'm getting some structure in that brushwork, which is allowing me to move relatively fast, but the paint, these soft brushes are carrying that paint so far. You know, note to self, I'm gonna have to do this again on a copper panel. I just love me this copper panel. Can you hone your inner Texan and talk in that accent for us? James Ito, no. I've been away for too long. I gotta go back to Texas, and I got to work on my drawl. I don't have a drawl, but you never know. Like one day, if I'm a parrot, if I'm around somebody who's talking that way, there's a few folks on the art tour with beautiful Southern accents. Shout out to my brother Brent from Virginia. He just sounded so good. I love that Southern accent. I can't do it. Sherry says, the Academy has helped me so much. Great community and instruction. Thank you, Sherry. Appreciate you. Hang on a second, Nikki. Jim Fairburn, yes. Is there a merch chat on Slack? If not, can you put it in general? There's a great idea here for an Academy t-shirt. Stop being such an umpty. Thank you, Nikki. I love it. I love it. What medium are you using in this drawing, the canvas right now? Mark, so the medium throughout is pretty much, it's always going to be with me, Liquin Original. Now, if you want a lower toxic alternative, your Rublev Oleo Gel is a wonderful medium. It just adds to the flow a little bit and just helps you kind of thin down that paint. But I have a rule when it comes to using mediums. I'm only using a little bit, and it's a ratio. It's 1 part medium to 3 parts paint. That's 1 part medium to 3 parts paint. It works out to about 25% medium in that mixture. So every time I touch my brush in the medium, I pick up 4 bits of paint. I don't need to measure it exactly. It's pretty forgiving, but as long as I have just enough medium in there to create the right amount of flow. What happens is you start to learn to listen to that feedback, feel that feedback coming through the handle of the brush. Well, that's weird. What do I mean by that? Well, when you're mixing your paint, you'll feel that there's a certain tug on that brush. You'll feel a resistance, or you'll feel a release, like a certain flow that starts to happen. Now, too much medium, it's going to start slipping around that palette, and you'll have this feeling like it's just out of control, flowing everywhere. You got too much medium out. And too much of a pull, a tug, too much resistance. You learn where that sweet spot is, and it's just a matter of add a little bit more medium in there. I really got to get a wiggle on, but hopefully you're starting to pick up what's going on here in the background. I know I need to speed up, but I'm having such a good time here. If you're having a good time and you're learning a little something, and you can certainly pick up, I hope you can pick up what I'm putting down here. But if you're enjoying it so far, again, please hit that like button. All right, I hope you'll forgive me, but will I do it? No, I'll do it. I was gonna say I'm gonna leave it, but no, I'll get that top corner covered, but I'm just gonna do it with a color. And I'm gonna work into this color later. The moss, as you'll see in the reference, towards the top of this image, where it gets a little drier, it's a little bit yellower. So I'm gonna scumble in a little bit of transparent yellow oxide. Now it's been thinned down with a bit of burnt umber, but I'm just going to brush it in there because I need the value, I need the tone of that color. I want that top of that painting to go away and that imprimatura to just subside a little bit. And we could break up these shapes and forms with all kinds of trees and more greenery, and we will. We will. We might even get a little bit of that in today's demonstration. But so far, I can feel that cliff on that side. I can feel a little bit about what's happening here. I've left a little gap there for the waterfall. Let's go ahead and get that waterfall in there right now. Won't that be satisfying? Now this one is going to subordinate. It's going to play second fiddle to our main waterfall in the foreground. So I only want a little bit of a subdued tone, bluish gray, no direct light on this waterfall, but because it's going to be the lightest thing that I'm putting on here, it should look relatively light. But the thing is here, if I'm going to have any convincing sense of light, I need to build that in. What am I about to say? My Tisch Academy people, hit me up in the live chat. What's the rule? What's the rule? Type it in right now. Piotr, still recording, brother. Thank you, mate. The furthest that I can go is my pure titanium white. And so if I want to create light, I need to stay away from my pure titanium white. Because think about it. That's the top of the value scale. That's it. And the deepest I can go is the deepest black that I can mix with this palette, which is phthalo green and permanent crimson. Those two mix together to make black, a deep black. Very nice black, a very useful black. That's why I don't use tuba black, because of the range that you can get. It's quite extraordinary. You can make it either a slightly green shade or a slightly red shade with that particular combination. There are other ways to achieve black as well, of course. I really like that one. Boom! Sherry Dolan, save your tonal best for last. So even though this is about to look pretty white, it's got to be a light gray, far from pure white. So in my hand, I have some paper towels. I'm going to take that brush, I'm going to wipe off my brush, and let's mix up a little bit of titanium white into that gray that we had before. And so this is now a very light gray, even though my hand is shaking. I really want another coffee. But I'm going to see if I can go through this live stream without it, because I am trying to cut down. my buddy Terry Hirsch from Montana fussed at me on the tour. He said, "Hey, Tisch, you drinking too much coffee there, boy." Oh man, look, feel the shake in the hand, mate. All right. Settle down, son. All right. There we go. A little bit lighter towards the top of that waterfall, but I don't know about you. I'm digging it. I'm digging it. You digging it so far? If you are, make sure, again, I'm sorry to keep banging on about it, but hit that like button for me. If you're not digging it, what are you doing here? Go do something else. But that's okay. I can handle it if you can't dig it. That's all good. All right, save the back. And yes, yes. You want to make sure you save your color best for last as well. Now we got pretty much the background established, not detailed, not finished, but established. And now what we want to do is move forward, move down to this pool that is above our main waterfall, and let's start creating a little bit more here. And let's see what we can do. Let's go to that angle, and I'll start to work just here in this zone, and let's have some more fun. Now, again, if you've got a question, I'm here to answer your questions, so just hit me up in that live chat with the QQQ. That way I'll see it, and I'll do my best to answer you. All right, and thanks again. Mike is cutting out. I think maybe when I lean forward, it might be doing that. See, James, sorry about that. All right, from Richard. Do you tend to favor flat brushes for things like background? Not really. I use all kinds. It just depends on, generally for me, texture is a consideration. So, you know, and also the phase of the process. Often though, when I'm working, I'm often working, like 99.9% of my work is on linen. And a lot of my bigger stuff is on stretched linen. So this is what I'm painting on predominantly. And I will use mainly dagger brushes, bristle brushes. So flats, I'll use probably between flats, filberts, and daggers. I'm using flats the least. It's mainly those daggers and filberts. But there's always a use for flats. Now here, I really enjoy the angular quality of these flats and how it's leaving a structured, chisel-like mark. It's kind of interesting, the way it's carving these rocks. I enjoy that. It's also a softer brush, so it's giving me some softer edges. I can blend readily, but I can also bring two shapes together and create a little sharpness if I need that with some more defined edge work in these rocks. So it's very interesting working with these Series 274 flats. Now, if you pull up the Rosemary Co. website, you search Series 274, you'll see exactly what I'm using right now. I'll pull out a few other brushes here in this live stream. We'll go ahead and talk about that as we progress. Right now, what I want to do is I want to add in some more of these darks. And we'll rock out with the darks, get that established, because I've just taken a quick look at the time with an hour and 15 minutes left to go and the vast majority of the canvas still to go. I think we need to get a wiggle on. It is certainly a lot of fun hanging out with you though. I hope regardless if we get this thing blocked in and completed or not, I hope you've had a good time. Now, of course, if you're hoping to see a finished painting in this live stream, a painting this size, this takes hours and hours and hours. This takes a long time. So I'll be here in the studio the equivalent of a couple of weeks in terms of work time. Hours, I'd say, I don't know, a lot of hours. I'd hazard a guess, but I mean, a lot of hours. But one thing we can do quite quickly and cover a lot of ground and talk about is we can talk about these techniques when it comes to establishing that composition, building up the image with the first layer of brushwork. Because our first layer, our block-in layer, this is the vital part of the painting process. And this is by far my favorite part of the painting process. It's so immediate. It's so immediate. You get to know, is this painting going to work? Right away. You get to see it immediately. One thing that I'm really excited about, though, with this painting in particular, is I'm really excited about that jewel of the little pond, the little pool down here in front of the composition. I'm really excited about that. Now, one more time, I'm going to ask my Academy folks, if you're following me on the Academy, can you please let people know what you think of that Academy? You'll find that as the top link in the description down below. Check out Tisch Academy. That makes all these live streams possible. And so if you really want to take your painting further, if you want to level up, if you want to go pro, if you want to learn some new techniques, if you want to just, if this is a hobby for you and it's just something you want to just have a little bit more fulfillment at that easel, create something that you're really proud of and go, hey, you know what? I friggin' did that, dude. Then check it out. The Academy might be for you. So if folks that are already following on the Academy, shout out to all my people. Let the folks know here that are tuning into this live stream what you think. But you'll find that link in the description down below. Check it out. Over 350 hours of content there. And I go live every single week. And tomorrow, in tomorrow's live stream, I'll be live for 5 hours. And we're going to continue with the waterfall theme tomorrow, but every live stream's different. We paint a range of subjects. All right. I got a question here from James. I was getting frustrated with a landscape because it wasn't looking at 100%. What I wanted, but I took the reference photo away and noticed that the painting is better alone. Do you have to do that? Hang on, so I was getting frustrated with the landscape because it wasn't looking 100% what I wanted, but I took the reference photo away and noticed that the painting is better alone. Well, yeah, okay, James, sometimes you have to let go of the reference and just kind of open up this dialogue with the painting itself, as weird as that sounds, and start talking to the painting and find out what the painting needs. Use the reference material as just the initial idea, and then move on. But yeah, all the time. That happens to me all the time, where there's at a certain point where it's just like, I'm just not getting anything out of this. So the exercise here is not to paint a photograph, it's to recreate an experience. You're just using the photograph to tease out that idea. Does that make sense? Great question. Thank you for that shout out, Piotr. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Robin. Appreciate that. Angus, that's an interesting tip. I really, that's intriguing. Right. Yes, I do, Diane. I do add shipping to the price. Yes, yep. Yeah, Jose, I will, we're starting to do translations on the Academy in multiple languages, including Spanish. Yes. Just 1 second, folks. Just a quick second here, folks. I just need to mute the mic. We had somebody just pop into the gallery. All right, we're back. Sorry, I had to mute myself there just for a second. Start working down here in this waterfall. Right. Angus, you spent 20 years as a gilder, went through 5 gallons of gesso each day, rabbit skin and chalk. Angus, I'm going to ask, don't watch my latest video on framing. You're going to be screaming at your screen. I had a buddy in Perth who's a gilder, and it's an amazing art, and what I do, it could not be considered gilding. I imagine you were doing it properly, brother. So I hope you're not insulted by my video. It's some DIY hackery, well and truly, but good fun, good fun. At least I ended up with a frame that I really, really like, but still, it's not quite the traditional methods, I can tell you that much. But how interesting. And thanks for dropping the tips in the chat there. Dropping some knowledge on us, that's cool. The garlic clove on the copper is a very interesting one. So apparently that helps acid etch the copper so you get something that's going to key in. Hey, ciao from Northern Italy. Hello, Linda. How are you? James is enjoying the academy. That's awesome. Thank you, Ed Klein. Appreciate this. From Artist Taskin, can you tell us what surface you like to use for painting? So I've talked about that a bunch already, but this is copper that I'm working on. I'm enjoying this, but more often than not, I'm working on linen, and that linen, more often than not, is adhered to a board. And that's just an archival approach for oil painting. There, that was a word I was trying to get out. All right. I'm noticing a little bit of this rusty color coming through, just right there at the top of my waterfall. We'll work into that with some of our reflected light, but this is going to be a consideration for later in the process. I think initially just a little bit of ultramarine blue and white. All right. Anyway. QQQ, do we have another question? No, okay, I think I've answered everything. And again, my goal here is to answer questions. So if you've got a question, hit me up in that live chat, okay? All right, I'm going to get out a little bit of lighter gray here. And I'm noticing that on these rocks, check out that reference material that's on the screen, but I'm noticing on some of these rocks that we got a bit of form. So the ambient light is shining on top of them, lifting the tonal value. Now here is a little bit more roundness to this rock, so I'm going to work that edge. But again, got a question there from Techno Dad earlier on about rocks being hard, nyuk nyuk, but it all comes down to edge quality and how clean we can create those shapes. All right. What glue did you use to adhere your copper to the panel? Lynn, I didn't make this panel. This panel was actually made by a chap named Ray Aslan. You can find him on Instagram. I got a couple of these panels left. There are other companies that also make copper. Ray happens to make a very nice copper panel. So shout out to Ray. But I did not make this, nor do I feel qualified to make my own copper panel, but one day I might like to play with that and have a go. I do know that it is stuck down on this panel with some pretty hefty adhesive. So, got a couple of rocks here that are just caught above this lip of this waterfall. I keep thinking to myself as I'm going through, make statements, Andrew, with the brush. So, make a line, make a movement, move on. Reload. Again, spending more time in that palette than I am on the surface of the canvas. It helps me create cleaner colors, reloading that brush continually, and just more decisive strokes. Awesome. Okay. Antje, I think I'm with you. I'm back. What did you miss? Any dad jokes? I don't have any dad jokes. Not today. But you know what? I appreciate a good dad joke. So if you've got, and I'm a dad now, so I've been a dad for 3.5 years now. And if my boy Hugo is watching this morning, good morning, Hugo. Love you, buddy. Sometimes Hugo watches his daddy on TV. My wife puts this on for him. I think he might become a painter. I don't know. I'm trying not to force him. He can do whatever he wants. He can do landscapes, he can do seascapes, he can do portraits, he can do whatever he wants. As long as it's painting. I'm kidding, of course. I'm looking for another one of these brushes. Bear with me while I have a look through my brush collection and try and find another one of these flat brushes, because I'm just having so much fun with this. Do I have another one in my collection, or did they only send me these 3? Because I'm going to have to get more. They are so good. So dang good. I just want one more. Nope, I've only got 3. That's all I have to use on this live stream. Okay, so it is. Right. But again, occasionally getting up, having a look at your painting from a distance. So I'm standing back from it now. Let's go to the wide shot. Let's see. Is it working? Is it working? Yeah, so far I'm enjoying it. I hope you are too. Hope you're getting something out of the live stream. The direction of the final brushstroke is another way to convey the turning of the form. Painting waves. Yeah, fantastic. I love that. Yeah, the direction of your strokes during this blocking phase already on your mind. Yes, and so often I'm contouring and creating form with directional strokes. I'm going to have to just take a quick 2 to 3 minute break here, folks. 3 hours is a long time. I got 1 hour left to the end of the stream. Looks like I'm going to have to get quite a move on here. But I think we'll make it. Do you think I'll make it? If you think I'm going to make it, go ahead and please do me a huge favor and click that like button. I will be right back with you. I'm just going to take a quick 2 to 3 minute break, maybe 5 minutes, and I'll be back on the stream. Okay, start your timer. And we're back. I've missed you. Sorry about that. 3 hours is a little bit of time to get through on the live stream. Hope you're enjoying it so far. Hope you're still with me. Let's go ahead and bring this thing home. Let's land this plane. I've actually used quite a bit of this nickel yellow. Loving the nickel yellow. A couple of bits of moss here on the side, growing down into this little canyon. What did I miss? What did I miss? 30 minutes since my last camera check. You know, that entire break, Piotr, I was still recording, but I tell you what, we'll do a new take right now. And we're good to go. And I'm recording again. And by the way, I got, for my Academy peeps, I got these batteries, these dummy batteries, and they're wonderful. I just plug them in. I don't have to change the stinking battery. I know. You probably already knew that you could do that. But hey, there you go. Right. B. Jones is asking if anybody else has tried those Tisch dagger brushes. And you really like yours, B. Jones. That's great to hear. I love them. I mean, and for block-ins, especially on linen, where you got to push that paint, create some structure. Oh, goodness. But you know where I really love them? And I use this a bunch in my Icy River Cascade painting, is building up that texture. By the way, you might not have seen this, but a brand new, it's a waterfall, but a brand new course that I've just dropped. It's available, the full 12-hour version is on my website. There is a shorter version on the Academy, but a full 12-hour version is on my website. Check it out. I'll make sure that Jim Fairburn, my COO there, puts a link to Icy River Cascade in the description. But this is, I talk a bunch about brushwork, texture, layering, glazing. And I'm going to be honest with you, that painting I did struggle with. I struggled with it because it wasn't like one of my favorites. I was like, do I even want to finish this thing, really? And I thought, no, come on. We'll see it through. We'll do this. It ended up becoming one of my favorites because of the glazing. And the glazing just pushed it into another dimension, and it was a lot of fun. So I talk all about how I do that and create atmosphere and light. And you can push and pull the depth. Learning a lot about mixing grays from this, B. Jones. Fantastic. That's great to hear. That's gray to hear. We can no longer buy cadmiums here in Minnesota. Gary Nix, what's going on, bro? What's going on? I wonder if Joe Paquette, who lives in St. Paul, is discovering that and what he has to say about that, because that, I imagine he'd be up in arms about it. Just, oh, namby-pamby, isn't it? It's just crazy. Well, here you can't buy lead, but as far as I know, you can get lead sent to you. So it's not commercially available on the shelves at retail outlets. They've banned it now because they want to keep artists safe. Well, I like to live dangerously, and so I like to use a little bit of lead in my paintings. And the amount of stuff that's out there that can kill you, a bit of lead paint responsibly used in the studio is not going to be the cause of your downfall. So you can get these colors from Blue Ridge Oil Paints, blueridgeoilpaint.com. You can get them shipped to you just about anywhere in the world. If you've got a post office, you can get some of that paint sent to you. Wonderful stuff. is the Blue Ridge. Really love the cadmiums that Eric Silver offers as part of his range. And I've got two of them, cadmium lemon, cadmium red light, right there on my palette. Just working on the edges and that texture of this rock here coming down to the water. What fun. What good fun. I might get into a filbert here. I had that one out. I don't know if I want that one. I might use this one. It's a little stiff, but it's another Series 274. It's a number 2. But it might push some paint. Let's see how we do with it. Ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, my 2 whites, and I'm mixing it over here with this burnt umber to gray it out slightly. And get into this white water. Now the rule with white water is it is not white, not until we shine a light into it. Now I'm going to be kind of working all over the place here, just trying to establish my major shapes and zones. That's the name of the game here with the block in. We've got a dark shape right here. So ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, burnt umber. Establish that shadow. That waterfall spilling over the edge. You really can get lost in the textures of the rock. I just love it. There are just so many interesting turns of form, angles. And so one of the things that speeds me up is I don't paint the whole rock just one gray color. I have a few brushes on the go and I'm just mapping it out in terms of shapes. And I'm bringing those shapes together, bringing the edges of those shapes together. So I'm more or less identified zones within my painting. And I'm just working zone to zone, edge to edge. And again, this helps me create something that I can travel a bit quicker. It's been about 2 hours elapsed so far, a little less than that by the time we factor in talking, dealing with cameras and whatnot. I think I want that to be dark, not light. Oh, now I've done it. I'm gonna really put my pedal to the metal right now. We gotta put our foot down, hit the gas, and let's scream into the finish line. So hopefully my natterings here are not going to be too incoherent while I talk to you and hang out. Again, if you got a question, hit me up with a QQQ, just like Kimberly R has done. Thank you, Kimberly. I see you there. What is so good about nickel yellow? Well, it's really interesting. It holds an interesting color space, I'm finding. It is kind of similar to Naples. It's got a lovely warmth to it. It's got a high tinting strength, so it's quite powerful. But it's also got, I'd say it's opaque, but not quite as opaque as titanium. But I just like it. I just like it. So when you say what's so good about it, I don't know that it's so good. I just like it. I think I can definitely see a use for it. So it would be what I would probably refer to as a bit of a convenience color, in that you could mix something similar that would do a job, but because you're using it straight out of the tube, even though it's a single source pigment, it is one pigment in that tube. So it's not a combination of colors that the manufacturer made. Generally, with the exception of a couple of colors, Eric Silver over there at Blue Ridge doesn't tend to do that. He will generally have one pigment per tube of paint. But a lot of manufacturers, for branding and marketing, they'll come up with all kinds of combinations and sell you all sorts of stuff. And they can be nice colors, but I always started going, well, if I could mix that color, why don't I just get the real deal, and I'll be in control of what that combination looks like rather than getting the paint manufacturer to do it for me. Does that make sense? But nickel's one of those colors that you could mix something that is close, that would do something similar, but it's just so convenient to have it right out of the tube. So I use it to warm up some of these areas, particularly my highlights. If I wanted a slightly warmer highlight, then I'll use that there. All right, just seeing if there we go. Do I do any meditation? I do not, Olivia. I do not. I meditate on the Word of God, but that's about the extent of my meditation. So I used to practice mindfulness. I used to be really into my Eastern philosophies, and that served me for a time. But since becoming born again in 2019, it's Jesus all the way, baby. All right. Techno Dad, you should come to the UK and enter the Landscape Artist of the Year. I think you'd win hands down. I don't think I'd win. No. I don't think I'd win, not by a long shot. I did see who, I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say anything. I'm very happy for him. I saw something on YouTube and I was like, yeah, cool, all right. Before I wreck myself, I'm going to just check myself there. My mama taught me, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, keep your damn mouth shut. So, there we go. What I do love, I love to see art in the mainstream, on the telly. I love to see that it's being celebrated. I think it's actually I think it's a net positive for art. I just have opinions, but I'm going to do my best to keep them to myself. All right. Have you completely abandoned the use of traditional mediums like stand oil, linseed oil, or walnut oil? Not completely abandoned. I love the ease and the convenience of liquid. Absolutely love it. So generally, that's the lane that I'm sticking in because I just find that convenience for me and getting work out the door quicker and balancing out like some archival practices. But I like the permanent flexibility of liquid. But you just, again, you want to use it with a bit of caution. Just don't use too much of it, and you should be good as gold, as they say down under. Speaking of gold, I love the golden quality of that transparent yellow and transparent red oxide. There's a warmth to it that makes your greens feel a little more natural. So if those oxides aren't a feature on your palette, I highly recommend it. It could just help you with that level of realism. And again, just getting these to look more natural. And if you have a look at those reference photos that are there on your screen, you'll notice a gold quality coming through some of those greens. We're getting somewhere with our landscape. It's shaping up. It's shaping up. Again, I mean, this is one of my favorite things to do is paint and hang out with good people on the internet. So if you're just tuning in, if this is your first time seeing me paint, then hey, welcome to the live stream. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm going to keep going until the top of the hour. I got another 45 minutes to go, and the panic is starting to set in because I really wanted to block in this painting. By block in, I just really wanted to fully realize the composition, all the brushwork, all of it. Right. All right, so Conan the Believer, there you go, brother. Awesome. Are there other colors for the nickel, like red, etc.? So Kimberly, if I was gonna mix it, I think I'd use predominantly white and then tint it with cadmium red, cadmium yellow combination. But more on the white side. And then to change the opacity, it just depends, like, are you gonna go into the lead a little more? You're gonna go into the titanium a little more. So for more opaque, reflective, go into that titanium. For a little more transparent, just hit up a little bit more of that lead. So, lead is just a beautiful transparent white. I use that instead of using something like zinc. Zinc, again, not archival, causes delamination and cracking. A lot of paint manufacturers are dropping zinc from their lines. So something to consider. And that information has been out there for a long while now. But when I found out, I was like, good night. So I stopped using it. I did a bit of digging and made sure that the grounds that I was painting on do not have zinc in there. And so that's now no longer in part of my paint practice. Good questions today, by the way. Thank you so much, and thanks again for tuning in and joining me here in the studio. I'm going to be going for about another 35 minutes here, screaming into the finish line. I think we better get that close cam rigged back up again. I wanted to work over here in these rocks, but I think I might switch gears and go ahead and get into the rocks on the other side. What I like about these rocks, though, the fragmentation of them is so interesting, but I like how they form these little lines that start channeling and funneling back into the main waterfall. So it's like they're directing the viewer in a way to look in that direction. So compositionally, I think the way these rocks are fragmenting, it's going to work in my favor. Slightly lighter gray, working in and amongst some of those marks that I'd laid down previously. But hopefully you can see here my approach now to the block end. Because what you're seeing, for the most part, is strategy. I'm thinking about creating from the outset a tonal dynamic. What does that mean? Well, I want a value range that goes from a darkest dark that I can muster, and it depends if this is appropriate for the actual scene, and also a light light. So the lightest white I can muster, which is going to be titanium white. I want that full value range to then communicate this sense of light. But I'm also thinking about that color. I want to have colors that are interesting, that are realistic, but dynamic at the same time. And so my block end is really the building blocks. It's the foundation of my overall concept. Now that foundation, this is what I'm going to build upon. And so generally, I started off this thing by saying that I'm going to have a very muted approach here. So when I say muted, what I mean is I'm going to play down the color in that initial block end. I'm going to desaturate, so chromatically it's not going to be very heavy at all. The colors aren't going to be so bright and intense. And as I progress with this painting in the studio, and as my academy students see the next layers go in, layer upon layer, you'll see how the surface gets a little more complicated, the colors get a little more colorful. Some areas will be muted and tamped down a little bit, but I'm going to then bring out that sense of light. But here in this initial stage, it's about getting the foundation right. And hopefully we've been able to do that today. Oh, I'm liking this rock shelf. Chuck me a like if you're liking the rock shelf. That's fun. Oh, it's good fun. What could be better? Drinking coffee and painting paintings. Right, QQQ, have I ever used alkyd oil? So Daystar, I'm using alkyd resins right now, so the liquid is an alkyd. But in terms of alkyd oil specifically, yeah, back in the day, I think I played with them, but if memory serves, I used to work at an art retailer called Jackson's in Australia back in the day. I worked at the Kearns Crescent store, back when it used to be in Kearns Crescent and Applecross. That's going back a long ways, over 20 years, man. Tell you what, I can't believe where the heck is the time gone. So when I was there, I had to do a few demos with water mixable oils, also some, well, different products. And I'm sure I used alkyd oils there. But, you know, they're good. They just got the oil mixed in, the medium mixed in with the paint, and they're good to go, right? I see the logic in that. That can be interesting. But again, I prefer to be in control of those ratios and those mixes. So I use liquid, and I just mix in about 1 part medium to 3 parts paint, 25%. At the top, that's the most that I'll mix in there. All right. Now, if you think I'm going too quick, I am. I'm trying to rush through this, and actually, I really want to see this block in through. We're covering a bit of ground, but we got more ground to cover still. I'm digging this and vibing what's going on, certainly there. I hope you are too. But I need some more transparent yellow oxide. I'm in desperate need of more transparent yellow oxide because I'm out on my palette. And while I'm getting this out, do we have another question? Again, hit me up in the live chat if you've got a question with 3 capital Qs, QQQ. Shout out to all my Tisch Academy members who I can see here in the live chat. Love you guys. And again, if you're new here, I really thank you for spending this time with me here in the studio. I appreciate your company so much. Hope you're getting any, some tips and some few little pointers out of this live stream. And if you're watching the replay, make sure you subscribe to the channel with the bell notification hit so that you're notified when I upload another video or when I go live again. You'll be notified. YouTube will tell you. All right, QQQ, do I ever paint jungle scenes, Daystar? Yeah, kinda, but I have in the past, but I think I need to again. I haven't really been around jungle. It's not generally the type of forest that we have here in New Zealand, and I tend to paint now these days more New Zealand subjects than just about anything else. We've got a bit of jungle in Australia. In fact, I used to live in the rainforest up in an area called Tarzali, which is in the Atherton Tablelands. I was there for about 11 months, and it rained and rained and rained and rained, but that's what causes a forest to grow. So the forest was spectacular. I suppose you could call it a jungle. It's a rainforest, a legit rainforest. Just a little further north from us, you have the famous Daintree rainforest. Cassowaries and crocodiles and all. But have I painted it? Not much. So I tend to do more now what is temperate rainforest here in New Zealand, like what you're seeing here. This is a waterfall in a temperate rainforest. Temperate, it's a colder climate down here. And what the main species of trees that we have here, native growing, are beech trees. B-E-E-C-H, beech trees. I thought you gave up. I'm trying, Amy. I'm trying. I'm a work in progress. Progress, not perfection. Am I right? Yeah, I know. I got a lot of work to do. Speaking of progress, goodness me. QQQ, with fat over lean, do you need to add more oil to the next layers? From Marcia? Or do you just keep using? Yeah, so that's a great question. And that's a question that I had in the beginning when I started using alkyd resins. Like, hey, what about this fat on lean rule when you're using liquid? Well, the thing is that when you're using an alkyd resin like this and you've got that permanent flexibility, so long as every layer that you're working has got just a little bit of liquid in there, you're going to get great adhesion between the layers. And you can even work over older paintings with that liquid. So I've gone back to paintings that were started years ago, and I just kept working on them, and I got a great adhesion between the fresh layer of paint and that old layer of paint. So it's pretty forgiving stuff. So I think the benefits far outweigh any drawbacks. And a lot of purists and people who are really obsessed with archival practices don't rate it. But the way I use it, like I feel very confident in saying that my paintings will last for many, many years. But the trouble is that we get into is just when we abuse the medium by asking it to do something that it wasn't designed to do. That said, now, Winsor & Newton might get in touch with me and fuss at me and check me on this, but I have seen demonstrations using these products where a lot of medium is used, and I look at that going, that sucker is going to yellow. Now, I have a yellowing test that I have shared with my academy students, and I'll share it again. In fact, Ash or Scott or Jen or somebody remind me to pull out that yellowing test in tomorrow's 5-hour live stream on the Academy. But in that yellowing test, it goes back to 2017, and I'm not seeing any discernible yellowing in that period of time since 2017 at a ratio of 1:1. I started my test at 1:1. What does that mean? 1 part medium to 1 part paint, which is way over 4 times more medium than I would normally use. Now that's just yellowing. In terms of cracking, none at all. So that's been really nice. All right. Waterfall's coming at you. Coming at you. Good fun. Good questions today. Thoughtful questions. Good questions. Lots of questions. So good. Appreciate it. It's nice when you get good questions. Again, I hope you've enjoyed this. I got about 25 minutes to go to the top of the hour. We're screaming into the finish line here. I'm going to call it now. I don't think I'm going to make it, but I'm going to try. And by make it, I really wanted to get a block-in done of the whole painting. Now this, of course, as a block-in, is my first initial layer of paint. And from here, I'm going to be adding a second layer, a third layer, a fourth and a fifth layer even. And this is where I can add to the detail, add more and more detail, continue to work into the surface. There was a little technique I wanted to show you. I'm going to go ahead and show you that now because I'm not going to get a whole lot of time later on. But a fan brush, while the paint's still wet in this block-in layer, if you want to tamp down any of that background texture, just working through with a fan brush and just blending slightly between the edges, this can soften your painting overall. It can just make it easier with that next layer. You want to be careful how much you do that though. But I would work back into that with some detail for sure. Just anywhere I've got a heavy edge, I just want to make sure I just knock it down a little bit, because what I'm on the lookout for and I don't want are ridge lines, these heavy furrows in the paint that are an artifact of lots of paint and quite, you know, I'm moving pretty quick with those brush strokes, but lots of paint. And I'm reloading my brush constantly, so some of these strokes do have a bit of thickness in there. So I just come along and just break some of those lines and edges with my fan brush. But it's a painting after all, so a bit of texture is okay, right? Hey Matthew, maybe we'll see you tomorrow in the live stream on the Academy. Again, if you got a question, put a QQQ at the start of your question. If I missed your question from before, hit me up in that live chat and just ask it again. I don't mind. Let's go ahead and start working on some of these rocks over here. Have you ever done a cityscape? Oh, I'm about to, RC Painter. Well, when I say I'm about to, I've been thinking about some cityscapes. I'm going on a bit of a rabbit trail at the moment. I'll spare you the details, but suffice to say, I am really blown away at the moment by old world buildings that were, 1800s. And some of the buildings that are around the world of a particular Romanesque type aesthetic. I mean, these are Parthenon and Pantheon looking buildings, and they're just they're about every city in the world has got some of these civic buildings. Very interesting. I thought, man, wouldn't that be such a cool painting? Wouldn't that be an amazing painting to paint some of these things? Has anybody here in the live chat ever looked into the World Fairs, World Expos? So I'm talking about recreating some scenes from these types of subjects. Now, I live near a city in the south of New Zealand called Dunedin, and there's a lot of buildings here that are from that period that just boggle the mind. They are absolutely incredible. So I'm going down a little bit of a rabbit hole here, and we'll unpack that story in more detail as it unfolds. Right. Georgian architecture. Yeah, Jen, that sounds amazing. Bath in the UK, awesome. Will you continue with this one tomorrow's live stream? No, I'm going to be doing some new ones. But, you twist my arm, Ash. Anything's possible. Anything's possible in tomorrow's live stream. I succumb to the peer pressure on the live streams. So if everybody's screaming out at me, no, keep going with this one, then I'll start working on that. Which city would you paint? I don't know. I'm thinking about starting with Dunedin. Still going, Piotr. Thank you, brother. I want to do some process video time lapses of my plein air painting. Do I have any suggestions for easy to use, not super expensive gear to do the recording? My phone doesn't hack it. Yeah, look, I'm a huge fan of Sony now. There is a particular camera that I found to be very useful. It's the ZV-1. It's really great for, as just an all-rounder. You can use it for vlogging and blogging as well. I'm actually using a ZV right here. and right here on the palette. So it's you know, it does 4K if that's going to be a thing for you. But my other go-to camera now, it was the Canon 80D, but they're getting pricey, eh? Very pricey. So now I'm going for Sony a6400s. And so I'm buying, I've just recently received some new camera gear and just invested in just upgrading my system here. So I'm making the switch from Canon to Sony. Oh, Ryan says loves watching the old Sienna video. I'd love to get back into painting some of that stuff. Sienna, Florence, yeah. All right. We used to CV1 in my old workspace. Pretty easy to work. Yeah, very forgiving to work with. Hey, Jim? Keep going tomorrow, says Robin. Okay. Okay, hey, look. Okay, Academy folks, who's joining me tomorrow for tomorrow's live stream? We did this with the Seascape, didn't we? If you want to see me work on this tomorrow, let me know tomorrow. Oh, let me know now in the live chat. Who's on my Academy and wants to see me carry on with this painting for during the 5-hour live stream? I'll do it. I'm happy to. Piotr? Is that you, brother? Steve from Jamaica, do you ever use acrylic? I do not. I do not. I'm an oils guy. Thank you, Belu. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but I hope I did all right. Uh-oh, Piotr, shots fired, shots fired. Now, speaking of the cities, there's one reason that I really want to paint these subjects. And I'm becoming more and more obsessed with ornamentation and, you know, the aesthetics and things that we might consider over the top. Because the way we build, the way we decorate now, it just seems like it's about getting a job done. And economics is now the primary consideration for a lot of these things. And consequently, we live in stuff and we work in stuff and we're around stuff that it just isn't beautiful. It's just ugly. Modern architecture is hideous. Sharp angles, glass fronts, steel frames, and 90 degrees. These are just, I don't know, they feel inhuman. But you look at the old world and the way we used to create and even the music, the culture, the architecture, the art, everything about it, it was just like, wow, what if you had no financial constraints, what would you build? And it almost looks like no expense was spared. You look at these old concert halls, civic buildings. Heck, if you're in the United States right now, what does your Capitol building look like? Seriously, what's the Capitol dome? Every state, it seems to have some sort of old world Capitol building. You ever wonder why we don't do that anymore? Why we don't build that way anymore? Seriously, though. So when I'm going to frame this, I want to frame it with something really ornate. And that was kind of the video I was dropping, although it'll probably upset some people like Angus, who is obviously a very professional gilder, had a career as a professional in that department. But still, I like me ornamentation. Now, when it comes to subjects, like I love old architecture. And I just think, gosh, wouldn't that be amazing? to paint one of those subjects. It'd be even more amazing. Sometimes I feel like I was born 300 years too late. It'd be so cool to be there during that time. Keep working on this one, says Lynn. All right. Whatever you want to do, Andrew, I'll be there, says Ash. Fantastic. Keep going, says Matthew. All right, would be great to see you, says David. All right, awesome. Okay, so Angus is saying short-term acrylic will be flexible, but plastics tend to become brittle. Interesting. Now, with the, Angus, to pick your brain here, with the Liquid Original, do you think that that would be an issue? And do you think we might mitigate some of that by painting on a rigid support? Let me know. Let me know. Okay, so quarter of an hour to the top of the hour. I see light at the end of the tunnel. I'm going to get out a little more of this transparent yellow oxide. And let's start to let's just flick in some of this moss here on the side. Get our imprimatura covered. I think in tomorrow's live stream we'll realize a bit more of this texture and tone here. But so far I can feel roughly what's happening. I wonder if your frames won't start to rust. Schlag metal does rust. Hey, if it does, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. I'm not quite ready to spring for that gold leaf, that genuine gold leaf. Are you using genuine gold there? I'm just going to scrub this color in. I want to just kill that imprimatur, just get it covered. My grandfather's statues are in my Capitol building, and great-grandfather's in another state capitals. Well done, Ashley. Awesome. How many hours do I paint a day? Not enough, Antonio. Gold does not tarnish, but metal leaf potentially does, says Angus. Just need to give it a really thin layer of French polish to dilute with meths. Yeah, cool, cool, cool. All right, will do. Yeah, I love, Giuliano, that documentary by Roger Scruton, Why Beauty Matters, is a game changer. It's absolutely fantastic. And, oh my goodness, yeah. He was quite on the money right there. It might still be available on YouTube if they haven't taken it down, but it's really great documentary. And I think it does matter. I think we need it. We need it in our lives. We need to be around it. I think when we don't have it, we don't do well, collectively and individually. A little bit of a more saturated green here. I'm going to put some ferns in here. Maybe that'll be on my list for tomorrow. If I end up, I've got a few requests here to do this waterfall and carry on in tomorrow's live stream. So I think we'll do that. I think we'll do it. I will succumb to the peer pressure. I was going to do something else, but now it looks like I'm gonna do this. All right. Whew. Goodness me. I've left that water off until now. I think we can make that a little bit brighter. There we go. Is the chat recorded to look back through later? Lots of interesting info today. Nikki, it should be. The chat should always be available if we've toggled those buttons just right. Hopefully we got those dials down. But yes, I agree with you. There's been some fantastic comments and questions, and it's just been absolutely wonderful today. So thank you to everyone for your participation today in this live stream. I can't believe how quick 3 hours disappears, but it's been really nice having your company here. Right. The last two things that are left here, obviously, are the water. That's the last couple of little considerations here. What are we going to do with this water? Well, here we get a little bit of a glimpse at it. Not much, but a little. And I really love this, here in this country, particularly in some of these areas that are mountainous, we have a lot of schist rock and a lot of quartz rock as well. And due to the glaciers that are up in the mountains and the grinding of this rock into a powder, it tends to tinge this water a slight blue color. So it goes this aqua, beautiful aqua quality. Now, you only see it in places here and there. For the most part, it's pretty dark, but it's absolutely, in this part, absolutely crystal clear. So a bit of phthalo green, a bit of cobalt teal, a little bit of cobalt blue. QQQ, do you suggest any other low camera price, low price canvas options for such as surface? So, well, you could go canvas, Suman. You could go canvas, or you could go on a primed board, but you just want to make sure that that board was good and primed before you go over it with oils, all right? Now again, if you're just joining me, and this is the first time you're seeing me, g'day, how you going? My name's Andrew. I like to paint. I love to teach. I hope after watching this live stream that I have earned your subscription. I hope I've earned the right to pop up on your feed on YouTube here in the future. But thank you for tuning in and joining me here in the studio today. Really appreciate it. Now, allow me to mention this once again, but if you want to take your paintings further, then make sure you tune in to the 5-hour live stream, which is going to be tomorrow, where I'm going to carry on with this painting, and that's going to happen over on Tisch Academy. And you can always watch the replays of those live streams on Tisch Academy as well. We'll add another layer of detail to this, but you can also find on Tisch Academy over 350 hours of painting video content. There's also the video version of the Creative Endeavor podcast, my podcast where I interview other artists from around the world, ask them all about their creative pursuit, their life's journey, some art business tips. You'll be able to see the video version over there. On top of that, we have critique videos. Every week I'm going live with my Academy VIPs. And there's also an exclusive community of people who love painting, just like I'm sure you do. Otherwise, why would you be here at the top of the hour in the 3rd hour of this live stream? So we must be kindred spirits. I think you must be an art nerd just like me, and maybe you love this stuff too. Am I right? It's good fun. Really good fun. So you'll find that link in the top of the description down below for Tisch Academy. Get yourself a free 7-day trial. You can cancel anytime, no lock-in contracts. It comes with also with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if for any reason you find that it's not for you, no problem. So you literally can try it risk-free, no obligation, and find out what it's all about. Lots of people here in the chat from Tisch Academy too. I think you'll find that the community is the best part of the Academy. It's just awesome. And I thank you for checking it out. And thank you for being here today. Again, I can't believe how quickly 3 hours goes. Just chipping away at this little waterfall. There's a little ambiguity here, a little bit of undetermined shapes and forms and edges, but that's okay. It can all be cleaned up in my detail phase. What I really wanted to do was bring a bit of light in here for this subject to really come to life. But I might have to add that light in tomorrow's session because I want to have that sunlight filtering through in a couple of places and really highlighting some of these shapes and forms. Now, down in here, we got some water, but that water is just beautiful. The base of that feels like it's got a lot of phthalo green in it. I don't know about you, but let's get some of that water here. I got cobalt teal, I got ultramarine blue, and I got phthalo green. And right here, I just feel like it's just so cool and inviting. And that could be just a color moment that would just invite the viewer to go, hey, jump in here. You'll freeze to death, but hey, go ahead and do it. Unless you've been trying that Wim Hof method, maybe you'll be all right. But right against here, you can achieve quite a deep, dark tone with a bit more phthalo green. I'm going to allow some more of that to come through this water. Separating my strokes out to really mimic that feeling that water is just fragmented, wavy, and turbulent. Love that bottle green quality though. So nice. All right. Getting there. QQQ. Where are you going to put your final focal point? Nick McKenzie, that's a fantastic question. I think the final focal point is going to be right here on the waterfall where I got a little bit of light that I want to highlight right there where the water's kind of churning up. That's right where I want to put it. That's what I've been thinking about. It's like this scene would just be made if it had a little bit of dappled light coming through. And so in tomorrow's live stream, exclusively on the Academy, and that 5 hours, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add some fern textures, some crevices to these rocks, some more texture throughout, hopefully fully realize some of these forms, and then just shine a light down in here. So if creating light in a painting is something that you've struggled with, then go ahead and check that out. You might get a few more tips in that live stream. So, shout out to my email subscribers as well. Y'all got the exclusive drop 24-hour early bird access to the YouTube video that I'm going to be making public today, all about building a custom picture frame from scraps that were discarded by the picture framer. It's good fun. I enjoy framing in that way. I like a traditional look, and I do enjoy making my own frames, and I do enjoy a little bit of a DIY project, which is good fun. Now, I can't afford the expensive antiques for my paintings, and the hand gilding is quite expensive as well. It's a brilliant, beautiful art form. But I manage by gilding over things that kind of look old, and then I give it a heavy antiquing. Oh, did I just block in this painting? Did I? Did that just happen? 2 hours and 56 minutes, 4 minutes to go in the live stream? Did we really do it? Okay, we got a couple more marks that we're going to make here to this painting. Right here against the boundary of that rock in this little pool, I think I want to amplify that shadow, but first, as this waterfall enters this section right here, I wouldn't mind if we had a little bit of clarification on that white water, the way it defines that surface. Let's go ahead and have a little more white water coming down. But also right here, there's another fall that I wanted to put in right here. So titanium white, Crimnance white, a little bit of ultramarine blue, a little bit of cobalt blue, a little bit of coffee causing the hand to shake. Oh gosh, I am really shaking today, shaking bacon. Come on, my guy, keep it together. Yeah, I got to get the caffeine. Kick that is ridiculous. So let's go ahead and just define this a little bit more, a few more strokes of foam on this surface. So for a block-in, what I'm looking for is just information. I'm looking to see, okay, is this painting going to work overall? Is this something that I think would make a great bigger painting? Can I get a sense of light, of form? Is the composition engaging and interesting? Do I want to keep looking at it? Now, I don't know about you, but so far I'm digging it. A couple of variations and slight changes from my photographs, but more or less it's following the photograph pretty closely. That's okay. But there's going to be one big difference here, and that's going to be realized tomorrow in tomorrow's session. But the big difference is going to be that light that finds its way into that scene. Just adjust a couple of these shadows here. Ultramarine blue and transparent red oxide makes a really beautiful shadow color. And right here, where these rocks are just held above the pool, I'll reintroduce a bit of my darker rock shadow color. Gosh. Well, hit that like button if you think that this will make an okay finished painting, if we should go all the way and finish it off. Shout out to all my Tisch Academy folks. I'll see you tomorrow in the epic 5-hour live stream. I could just keep working on this all day. I'll try and resist the temptation so I don't I don't miss out on anything tomorrow for tomorrow's live stream, but my goodness, what fun. What a good fun to have your company here today. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you got something out of this. Did you get something out of this? Let me know in the live chat. If you're watching later and it's not live right now, hit me up in those comments down below. What would you like to see more live streams of in the future? What are some of your favorite subjects to paint? If it's traditional, representational, realism, hey, we'll paint it. Goodness me, I'm having too much fun. I've now gone over time. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. Thank you very much, Joe. Joe and Greta Warren, appreciate that. Thank you. That's awesome. All right. Well, look, this was a lot of fun. Thank you again for your company. We're here now at the end of the live stream. It's 3 hours, 1 minute, and 36 seconds. I think we made it. Did we make it? Now, this water down here doesn't have any reflection at all. This is just the first layer of paint, but I think I know what I'm going to do tomorrow for that exclusive live stream on the Tisch Academy. Now, if you're not already a member of Tisch Academy, jump over there right now, click that link down below, just try it for 7 days for free trial. You can cancel it anytime, but be there for that 5-hour live stream. And if you're watching this in the future, hey, there's more live streams. There's a live stream happening every single week for hours and hours and hours over on that Tisch Academy. Okay, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks so much for stopping by and tuning in. Appreciate it so much. I'll see you again in the next one. All right, bye now.